What mics did the studio have in there for you? What are you using there? Do you know?
Lavaliers.
Oh,
it's fancy.
You have the.
Well, it's not a podcast. It's a video.
Ones. Yours is a real show. It's a television show.
I haven't used these since Art Institute. I'll tell you that much.
I'm just complaining. We haven't even started yet, and she's complaining already.
This studio is horrible.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
Where is my eclectic. Fiji? What is this, Glacier Isle? How dare you?
That wasn't already open. You opened that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I want to make sure no one left there.
Alkaline spring water. That's good. I like alkaline. I went into a whole thing about reading about water levels.
Do? What?
So like Fiji's there's acidic and base in waters.
Okay.
Look this up.
I will.
And so a spring water is like in the middle. And then it goes up to like Aquafina and down to like Fiji, like the alkalinity versus of the water. And there's differences. So you'll feel like if there's a drier water, if that makes sense. Like if you taste
like
Aquafina.
Wine is dry tasting.
Yeah, there's... Anyway, if you read up on it, it's pretty interesting. And you can taste the difference. Like you can almost do like a water tasting, say.
Well, Fiji waters, or is it Fiji or Fuji?
Fiji.
It's unbelievable. It tastes like silky going down your throat.
See, and I'm a smart water fan. Like I like the other side. I'm on the other side.
Like a hard and biting.
Yeah.
Like there's iron in there.
Smart, full of electrolytes or something.
Fiji water. People used to be upset when they would come on and I didn't have that because I made the mistake early on of buying a case of Fiji and just putting it out, and then I end up getting, I don't know whatever brand this is.
I'm just partial to Purified.
Bougie water.
I
the bougie water.
My assistant will bring in spring water. I'm like, I won't drink that.
You have to drink smart water.
No, I have to drink Purified. I like the chemical taste.
Yeah, well, I have that ordered to my home. It's a reverse osmosis thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
See,
something like
something.
There's something. No, I just Googled it one day because this one says it. That's what reminded me. 8.88 pH. So I like the 8,
The only time I needed to know about pH balances was when I had a fish tank.
Yeah. They're a pain.
Yeah, why do people still do that? People do that? Is that a thing still? Fish tanks are like kind of still a thing?
High-end ones.
Like
I can see like a high,
tanks.
like the really like bougie. Now I'm going to use your word.
Bougie.
The bougie
I didn't
fish
invent that
tank
word.
with like the shark in it.
They always had really cool fish tanks when you would go into a Chinese restaurant or some Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
They had like these crazy. It was the only time I would ever see a saltwater tank as a kid because the fish were so vibrant, And I used to go, Dad, how come our fish don't look like that?
Well, in my 20s, and I am, Rose from the Golden Girls on this, in that this is my St. Olive. I lived in South Florida.
Yeah, right on.
And I was in the film industry. So I was a location manager, scout, and basically went into mansions, scouted them for film crews, commercial print, like set up shop there, made sure they didn't break anything. And so
How'd that go?
It was either they always had a ton of insurance on it, but it was like the homeowner, like the crew would come in, like plug into an outdoor outlet and then the outlet would break or like,
of course.
And then the homeowner's like, that's $500, and you're like, there was either like the homeowners who were awesome, who had $36 million houses we walked through and they're like, have Starbucks coming out of fountains and, it's ridiculous. And they're absolutely so nice. And they're like, oh, you track mud through. Don't worry, I have a cleaning they're just like, they like having people there. They don't even need the money that's coming in. And then there's the people who are like the new La Riche. And they're like, this is my marble floor with my, they're like, it was hard to work with them. So it's just a big difference.
Wealth is something, huh?
Yeah, but the upper echelon of the wealth, they were always the nicest people and the most humble. They felt so fortunate, I think, to have it. I'm sure that's not true across the board, but...
I don't think.
No.
Where were you going with this?
I have no idea.
You were in Florida, you had a film job, and...
Oh, so the fish tank.
Yes.
I'm back at the fish tank. So they would have these insane... We're going to have fun here today. This is going to be
amazing. Yes, this is going to be amazing.
Bring me back in. Okay, so the fish tank, they would have these insane fish tanks that would be like an entire wall. I mean, millions of dollars of fish, and it was just incredible. And they're saltwater, but they have, I mean, there's people dedicated to coming in.
Once a day usually.
And like
It's
checking
ridiculous.
everything and making sure that these exotic fish are alive and, you know,
Some
well
of those fish are
taken care
thousands of dollars.
Oh, they're ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, fish is still a thing. I went to a client's house a couple months ago, and he had this elaborate system. It was built into the wall in his game room, and I mean thousands and thousands of dollars, but it wasn't saltwater, and so it was missing that vibrancy because the saltwater
Yeah.
tanks are so colorful and so they're just different.
Well,
right?
even the fish are a little bit of a...
Yeah, it's like some carp you pulled out of the Ohio River down there, right? It looked like it
Wow,
to
that's
me.
a really nice carp you got there.
Don't laugh, as we used to fish for those things, and I can't admit to eating one or two as a kid, but we might have.
Well, I am an official bluegill receiver. That's all I've ever fished and all I've ever caught. Is
There's no meat on
bluegill.
those.
No, and I always get them through the eye, and I can't throw them back because now they're like half blind, and then I feel bad for the poor fish, and it's just...
Fishing's disgusting in the essence of it, right? I mean, think
Yeah, but
about
it gives me like, you know, I could totally like put this worm on the hook kind of girl, you know?
So
I'm
there's
not
a feeling of accomplishment
There is, that I'm like not afraid to put a little fish through, and like, that's fun.
I hate that shit. I just do.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't. I mean, it isn't that it creeps me out, but it does creep me out. Like, you know, baiting a worm is the worst. I hated baiting a worm when I was a kid. You're trying to bait this worm, and then you end up hooking your finger. So now you have like an open cut, and you got worm juice on your fingertips. Like, and how is that healthy? I mean, that's what I was thinking about when I was 8.
Yeah, I don't think you're a fisherman after all.
No, or they had crickets, right? You'd have to put like a bait hook through a cricket. Now the fly fishing is fantastic
I've never done
because
that.
it's all fake bait, and you're just little
Shiny and...
when
Yeah.
that's relaxing.
But
then
what
again,
if you caught something?
that happened to me once, and I had to get somebody to take it off the line for me because I didn't think I'd catch anything. I figured this would be an exercise of like almost athletic, like baseball. I'm a baseball fan. This is going to be like throwing a baseball. I'm going to toss this out, and every time I'll just slowly bring it back. I'll get some sun. I'm not going to catch anything, and boom, like 20 minutes in, I'm like, now what do I do?
Now I gotta get it out of there. I would like to do deep sea fishing. I think for a once in a life experience, I think, you know, bringing in like a big marlin or...
So I'm taking you've never done it before.
I haven't.
Okay, so before you get to the fishing part, you need to survive the ride.
Well, I love being out on the sea.
Everybody
Speedboats,
says that.
jet skis. I don't let me loose on a jet ski. I will. It's like riding a motorcycle for me. Like,
Okay.
I will make it go as fast as possible.
In the ocean?
In the ocean. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. I'm a crazy person out there. I like lose hats. Like, I'm like, I don't care. This is the best time I've ever had in my life. So I love that. I did go out once on like a half broken catamaran.
A schooner.
Yeah, and everybody got sick. I was
the
the only
worst.
one who didn't get really sick, and you know the whole day was a bust. And then one of the engines broke, and we're going through.
Horse.
Oh my gosh, downtown Fort Lauderdale's waterways, and almost running into. It was awful. It was this awful experience. I was like, you know, I think I'm a speedboat type, maybe a yacht girl.
Yacht.
Like,
Everybody's
put
a
me
yacht
on
person.
a yacht. Yeah.
Everybody's a yacht person.
But I do. I like the speedboats. You know, that's a lot of fun.
And you were in Florida, so there had to be a lot of that. And you're not doing that in Pittsburgh on a regular basis, I'm guessing.
No. I've done kayaking.
Okay. That's a thing.
Yeah, down by PNC, I went kayaking, which is really fun when you leave because the flow of the water's with you. But then you turn around and you're just fighting. You're just like so exhausted. And you're like, why did I do this? I don't understand. Like, I'd rather be in like a lake.
When I grew
know.
up, we went. This will date me, but I was going. I guess it was water skiing for the first time down on the Ohio River. And I am so old that the river back then had all kinds of colors, lots of colors.
I don't believe that.
Oh, believe it. There was all kinds of chemicals floating around in there. It was all kinds of shiny, and you would have to.
I thought you were saying it was really clear.
No, colors.
Colors.
It had lots of colors. Like a certain brown tint over here, a certain burgundy
Red,
tint,
yeah.
rust over here.
Oh, there's
black-
that carp.
What? Yeah, they just float to the top and you grab one.
Yeah.
But the point was, we had to be told by folks that were experienced at water skiing that you needed to be careful not to get impaled by pieces of wood and lumber and metal floating down the river.
Bodies.
And I guess it's a lot cleaner today than it was, but I will tell you, in the 70s and 80s, it was not real clean.
Yeah, I mean, I think the river's been cleaned up a lot. It looks refreshing, right? When you're down at the point or...
And you crash and you get a gulp full of that stuff. That was terrible.
I'm kind of a tomboy. Like,
didn't bother you anymore?
Like, I love makeup and hair and fashion and all of that good stuff, but I just signed up for the Muddy Princess. Like, that is truly who I am. It's like, you can dress me up, but I'm gonna go jump in mud and like do whatever. I have fun with that kind of stuff, like letting loose a little bit. But it will be in like a pink hat with eyeliner. Like, that's my rule.
What is that? Muddy Princess. What is that?
So it's kind of like the Tough Mudder.
Okay.
But based for women. And obstacles, mud, and you probably wear tutus. You know, it's kind of like... I don't know what the outfit.
You said probably.
Well, I mean, there's so many different concepts you can go with for, dressing up. You could be Superwoman, Wonder Woman costumes or...
And it's for women.
It's for women, which, now I get such a hard time because I do all of this women's groups and, we talk about women's issues is now, when does it push into the other side that we're leaving all the men out, right? But I always say we're talking about it as an open discussion. Men are more than welcome to attend anything, take part in anything. We're just saying it's focused on women and women's issues, if that makes sense. Like, we're not excluding men. We'd rather actually bring them into the conversations as well.
Yeah, I'm all for inclusion, but I'm also kind of puzzled why that's even a thing. Like, why would someone even be upset by that? I don't know. It's like we're really uber sensitive to that. But regardless, you born and raised here?
I was actually born in Kansas.
That's
yes.
Pittsburgh's a long way from Kansas.
It is. I was my real name is Amanda, and it's after
I could see that.
A Waylon Jennings song.
Ah, okay.
So everybody calls it as Mandy Barry Manilow. I think it was about his dog. I'm like, no. It was Waylon Jennings. My dad played a banjo, played guitar, and what was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm from Kansas. I moved here very young, though, to Pittsburgh. My mother's from here.
Okay.
And
how'd they end up in Kansas?
So my mother and my father were both greeting card writers. He was a greeting card writer. She was a greeting card illustrator.
Huh.
And they met, I think, in Ohio at either, I think it's called Rustcraft.
Oh, okay.
I think it was an older company.
I've heard of that company.
And then they went to American Greetings. Yeah. They were up in Boston, where my brother was born.
Okay.
And then they both went to Kansas, where Hallmark is.
Okay.
And so they both worked for Hallmark. So it's ironic that I'm kind of in one way with my marketing company and the family business that, I do these designs, I put on a clever quote with it, and I'm like, I'm pretty much the online version of my parents' business. So I don't know how that happened, but very creative. My dad passed away years ago, but I've had this box, which I was given after his funeral, of the rejected Hallmark cards. So they are like terrible jokes that make no sense. Like, it's like, oh, and then there was a banjo, and there's like no punchline. It's like this reject box. It's fantastic. But
those were his ideas, or
they were his. So just tons and tons and tons of like
that's
his
part of the
card
process,
concepts.
right?
Yeah, but it was great growing up in a creative sense, and giving me that freedom and a lot of sarcasm and humor that came along with it. Kind of, moving me where I've gone in my direction of. I always say I'm going to be a stand-up comedian one day and just throw the whole baby kissing and waving game away and just be crass on the road and just speak my mind, right?
You could do that.
Yeah.
The good ones get paid pretty well.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but at least it's out there. I watched a lot of Saturday Night Live as a kid. I don't know if that's right.
You are immensely qualified.
Yeah.
Did you like it? It's the question.
I loved it.
Okay.
It's so funny. They started playing replays a couple weeks ago or a month or two ago of like old shows. And I was like, I remember this as a kid. Like, I probably shouldn't have been watching this.
Those probably weren't even the old shows. We just had this conversation on another podcast. The inception of that show in 74 or 75. I mean, I was young, but just and shouldn't have been watching it.
Yeah.
Like John Belushi and Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
We said there was Jane, you ignorant slut. And we said, would they be allowed to say that today? And the consensus was probably they would try to do it. But they had John Belushi doing Joe Cocker was a thing. You might not have ever seen it. It's one of the most famous moments of that show's ever. I guess John Belushi was imitating Joe Cocker, the singer, and then Joe Cocker walks out in the same outfit. And they sing together, and Belushi's doing Joe Cocker better than Joe Cocker's doing Joe Cocker.
Sure.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy what they can do on there. I mean, some of them are okay today. Some are so funny still. You're just so talented at what they're doing. So
I think so. So Pittsburgh is a lot different than Kansas. It's a lot different than Florida, although there's a lot of Pittsburghers living in Florida.
So many Pittsburghers.
Yeah.
It's a transitional place, though. You know, I went down there at 21.
Are we going to die?
I will. I always say I'm going to go have a condo back down there. Like, I want to dance in Meisner Park at, 65 years old with my ridiculous costume jewelry, dance up the nights and have cocktails.
I can see that age sitting out there.
Once the kids are, older. But, I mean, they just look like they were having the time of their lives, dining, and it was great. But it's different. Like, even the friends I had down there, they're in D.C., they're in Texas. Mm-hmm. They don't live there anymore. It's in your 20s, that's the lifestyle you think you want is I'm going in mansions, I'm going to fashion parties and, with celebrities, and you're doing the whole thing. You're on boats on the weekend. It's this big, glamorous lifestyle, and you have all these bags. Meanwhile, everybody who lives there in their, 20s and 30s, for the most part, you're pretty broke. You're not making much. Everybody's in the restaurant and hospitality industries, which you can move your way through. But, it just became not home. And all of a sudden, that's kind of, in my late 20s, I was like, well, I don't necessarily want to stay here. The school systems are this and that. They're a little bit worse than the Pittsburgh ones. We have really good schools here.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No question.
And,
no question.
Really. I mean, they're really top schools. And the atmosphere is different. I grew up playing Red Rover in the backyard, and, it's just a whole different lifestyle. And I think by the time you reach your late 20s, you're like, okay, I see what my parents were trying to do here. Plus, my 80-year-old Italian grandmother would call me every 2 weeks crying to get me to come. I mean, literally sobbing on the phone going, I'm trying. Will you just move home? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to move home. But I had, I just graduated. I did an MMA fight, random jobs that I've had.
Really?
Yeah. So
wait, back up.
Okay.
You didn't fight.
I did not fight. I was a producer.
Okay.
So we set up a whole fight night. And my best moment from that, there was two moments, was one, this guy, one of the fighters, got knocked out. He was on a stretcher. I'm trying to find the ring girls. I'm on my phone. And then they're like, the branding is coming up off the mat. And it's a live pay-per-view fight. And I'm like, I have nail glue. I was like, I have nail glue. I'm going for it. So I'm running from across this, we had 30 seconds. And I'm in the middle of the ring, nail gluing this branding down so they don't trip on it and so it doesn't come off. And then I'm running back and Dennis Rodman's there and he's trying to find vodka. So I'm running all over. We're at a school. We're nowhere there's vodka. I'm running all over trying to get Dennis Rodman vodka. It was ridiculous. But what an experience. I loved hosting. It was definitely something outside the box and it's huge. MMA is huge in Florida.
Yeah.
So,
do you like the sport though? Or
do
you like the spectacle of it?
No, I mean I'd watch it. I loved Brock Lesnar. I mean his back was ridiculous. He'd come out. I don't know what
Mm-hmm. He was a wrestler, wasn't he?
Probably. He's enormous. His back was like a wall. But he'd come out and be like, oh, I don't want to. It was fun. I mean, it was always on. It was on Penguins would be on here on a Saturday night. Everywhere had it on, so you had to watch it.
Okay.
I like it, but I think they hug each other a little too long. They'll be stuck there for 2 minutes. You're like, guys, can we just back away from each other, reset, and then go at it
So
again.
you probably like boxing better then.
I like boxing better.
Because they're striking.
Yeah.
Striking each other. Which MMA is supposed to be everything. But once they hit the mat, it becomes like kind of like...
Well, there's always like, it's like a delay. Like they just, you know, I
Delayed
understand that
violence.
it's like part of it and they're doing stuff well, but it's kind of like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to go to the bathroom while these two cuddle. Could you stop cuddling and punching each other in the face?
Oh, man. All right. So wait, you went to school in Florida?
So I actually went to IUP here
Okay.
for English. I wanted to be a writer,
Right.
a penniless writer. And then
Are you following your parents' footsteps in regards to the greeting card things and so forth?
my father was an English major.
Okay.
His mother was an English major.
Okay.
So I wanted to be a creative writer and work for a
Okay.
magazine, which I did accomplish. I worked for a magazine in Florida for a little bit, but I did not like the fact that everybody writes exactly the same. And that is
Meaning...
the voice is the same throughout. So if you read a magazine, the voice kind of, you know, that kind. It was I won't name it, but a beauty magazine. The voice is the same for consistency throughout. So you're trying to write like everybody else. You're not trying to like stand out as like a writer in that type of magazine. It's not like an opinion
Publisher didn't
piece.
want that.
No, it's very standard. It's very, you know, they had medical doctors in there and highlighted. So it had to be a little bit more cerebral. So I didn't really like, it wasn't creative. I'm like, oh, I'm creative. So it wasn't for me. After, you know, I started writing in 4th grade, did classes, out extracurricular. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I actually like that.
So it's back to the Olive Garden.
Yeah, seriously. I worked in a lot of restaurants. I've worked in a lot of restaurants, which is great. So I went there, and then somehow I found that position as this location manager and scout, and which I think I found on Craigslist of all places.
Really?
And I worked for, Marlins Baseball and
right on.
all these like amazing companies. And it was great, but I was there, you know, maybe 5 years. It was time to move on. So I took this job. Well, this job was, I was an associate producer. I was like, I'm an associate producer. Well, it was totally like scammy. And like, they were like, you've won a TV show, but you have to pay $9,000 for it. And I'm like, wait a minute. And you don't know that till you have it. And you're like, well, I'll stick this out for a little. But there was a girl who was like their regular person they used for the show. And I was like, I can do better than this.
Okay.
And so that sent me back to school for broadcasting because I was like, if she can be on and get paid as this, then I should go and go back to school for it.
And where was that?
Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So I loved it. I had stage fright from horrible stage fright from 5 years old. I messed up. My mom will tell you about this. So I was supposed to go in front of the entire school on the intercom and ask a question.
Okay.
And then people would have to answer it. So I went in, I said, I was so pumped up. Like my cousins were in the school, everybody was going to hear me. I'm like, I knew I wanted to like at least talk from a young age. And so I said, what is Dorothy Gale's last name in The Wizard of Oz? There was nothing I could say. I already said her last name. Like I totally just, that was it. Stage fright set in. Never changed. Like my brother came home. He's like, don't even ask her how it went. Like it was so bad. So bad. So I spent a long time.
That gave you stage fright?
I mean, to the
point.
point.
Wizard of Oz revealing the last name?
Yeah, that was it. Because I was so confident about it and I just felt utterly humiliated.
Wow.
And I was little. I was a little kid. So I still wanted to be, I tried out for movies and froze. I tried out for morning show host. I'd stand in line for 2 hours and then I couldn't talk. I'd prepare and be like, I can't talk.
Wow.
They'd be like, we like your shoes. I'm like, this is great. I love it. Like, so I bombed auditions for musicals in high school. I just kept going in because I was like, I know I can do this. I know I can do this.
Until it was time to do it.
And then I couldn't do it. Yeah. And then I'd freeze and just blurt out whatever. I still have problems with it today. I mean, in more serious situations, I'm like, what did you just say out loud? Like, what are you saying?
Like Tourette's almost.
Almost, yeah. It's awful. It's awful. And I get out of it, I'm like, oh man, Mandy, that's terrible. So I went back to school for broadcasting. I was like, I got this. So in the school, I was fantastic. the kids were younger than me, so I immediately felt like I'm a mentor. I have to be able to do this. If I can't do this, they can't do this. And, I was tutoring some of the kids, so I did great in a school setting. Ended up with a double internship to NBC 6 Miami. One television portfolio of the year with a gold medal. I got a gold medal, my only one. I was like ready. All the kids are like, oh, you're going to be a news anchor. I'm like, I'm going to be a news anchor. Well, I chickened out. I've told everyone, I'm like, well, I don't want to go to Mobile, Alabama and make $13,000 a year and be on call. And the truth is, and this is like the first time I'm saying this publicly, is I chickened out, never sent a resume in.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah. So I just was like, because when I was out with NBC, I would freeze. Like, I would freeze. They'd be like, okay, write this. You can do a stand-up here. And I couldn't do it.
Wow.
I know. Okay. So this is why I had my Spotlight on Pittsburgh show. This is why I started it, because it's practice. It's at a community TV station. We got students there watching, and I pretty much disassociate with the camera, that it's a camera and not like 500,000 people watching me. But now, when it comes to work, like, I work for a chamber of commerce, and the first week I was there, they were like, you're going to be on stage at this community days with a congressman. And I was like, oh, okay. No problem. But now I'm so comfortable with it. Yeah. I could stand up in front of 1,000 people. It wouldn't bother me. And now I've done Spotlight on Pittsburgh so much, in that type of setting, I can talk in front of anyone. I can interview anyone. So it took a long time. I mean, everybody sees, oh, she talks so well in front of people and she talks so well on camera. And I'm like, it took me about 30 years of just going back and doing it again and again and again to like get over the stage fright from being 5 years old and talking about Dorothy Gale on The Wizard of Oz.
Did you ever analyze like why you feel that way? Are you at that moment, are you self-analyzing what you're saying? Is that what leads to the fear?
Yeah, so it's harder if I'm prepared or scripted.
I get that.
Like if I'm just talking like I'm talking to you, like we're having a great time.
Absolutely.
I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah.
It's like the second
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, if I try to memorize something or, something like that, or be super prepared about something, I can't talk. It's like, I don't know what that is. It'll get there in like, 30 more. I'll be like 60. I won't tell my age. I mean, like 42. Yeah, but that was a huge struggle for me for a long time. But I'm the type of person, I'm like, I hate fearing things. Yeah. Like, I refuse to let anything bog me down or stand in my way. So I will keep going back again and again and again until, I've nailed it. Yeah, well, it does. Yeah, and I knew I could do it, and obviously, I do my show now just fine. And it's taken a long time, but I was determined. I was like, I know I will be good at this. So, I think I can relate to that. We had a guest on, said something funny that Julia, she said, I just didn't like cottage cheese, and I would just keep eating cottage cheese because I knew it was good for me, and I knew eventually I would like it. But I just ate it and ate it and ate it and ate it and ate it. Took years, but eventually I liked it. I can't relate to I don't like cottage cheese at all.
I'm like, Julia, I can't
I'm like,
relate
that's just one of those I think I'll skip.
I'm going to skip that challenge too. Yeah.
Well, it's just like I have a fear of like standing on ladders or heights, especially ladders, Ferris wheels, anything you're not like tied into. I hate it. But I want to go skydiving this year. Like I want to jump out of a plane, but I don't want to stand on a ladder and get a book down from a library because it's too high.
Yeah, heights are a strange thing, and I'm deathly afraid of them to the point where I have to somewhat sedate myself to fly. Somewhat.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, to take the edge off. I'm a little better today than I was years prior, but I don't like ladders. I don't like being in a tall building and going to the window. I would never think of, why would I possibly jump out of a perfectly good airplane? Why would I do that?
I have a whole system for that.
Why? And you have a system for jumping out of a plane?
No, that they're going to have to basically push me, but I'm going to do it. Like, I think once I'm up there, I'm going to have to do it. That's why, like, if I sign up, I put money down, I'm like, I have to do it. I have to. And it's like it's a 1 second decision. So I'll do it. But, no, I have a system for flying, and it's ridiculous. But, I know I've memorized kind of how the flight feels, and... Yeah. And it's that takeoff for me. I'm okay getting on the plane. Hopefully I'm
I don't drink anymore, but hopefully in the past I was kind of like a little tipsy and okay.
Yeah.
But it's that takeoff, like that rumbling, because the I don't know, the runways are just so rough. You would think runways would be smooth as silk, right? But those planes, I mean.
I don't think there's anyone who's 100% just, they would have to be a frequent flyer and fly like every day to be.
Yeah.
Every time I get a little concerned.
How could
and then
you
once
not?
Once it levels out, you're like, all right, and I'll take the round ice for 500.
and you figured the landing would cause more concern to the average passenger, but not me.
Yeah.
I'm worried about that takeoff and like the landing, And
I think the landing is worse.
It would probably be more risky, I guess, if you were assessing risk.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because, I've had some landings that you come in and you bounce, and bounce. And that's a little unsettling.
Yeah.
And you only do
I've
it
had
once.
some rough flights, for sure.
Yeah.
But I had one really, really cool one. I was flying to Pittsburgh from Florida, and we flew through like 5 thunderstorms. But they were like these enormous like cloud formations that we were just sailing right between, and then you'd see the lightning strikes in them. And you weren't really, I don't know, I wasn't really worried. I just thought it was the neatest thing I've ever seen. I was like, look at that. See, I would never
What was the
see that.
scariest flight you were ever on?
I was going to Panama City on spring break 2004 with my girlfriends, and we were on like a puddle jumper propeller plane, and it was foggy, and they had to circle, and it was like bouncy, and I'm like, we're all gonna die. We're not gonna make it. And then you do, and you're like, I was just being so foolish, It's just, but those little planes are a lot rougher than the.
Yeah, there's no
enormous
question.
planes.
I was on a wide body. I think that means it was the type of plane that had, I guess it's 3 seats and 4 in the middle. So there was 2 lanes. That's a 747,
Yes.
757. I don't know, a big.
Oh, the one with the 2 in the middle too.
Yeah, there was just a shit ton of people in every direction. It was the biggest plane ever, and I was going from Chicago to Miami. That was the flight. It must have been 20 years ago. And I've had some rough flights, but this one was a lot of turbulence, and we were constantly being told to put the seatbelts on, seatbelts off, seatbelts on, seatbelts off. And, I was kind of like, drinking white knuckles. And I looked up and as they were serving in our lane, closest to us, they were serving, the 2 flight attendants who were serving, I just happened to be looking at one of them, and a terrible, terrible turbulence hit the plane, and it went. And I saw her face looking at the other flight attendant, and it wasn't a normal look. Like, I'm sure they've been through this 1,000 times, but she looked at that other flight attendant like, and when her eyeballs went like that, I knew we weren't in Kansas anymore. I knew that this was not a routine turbulence. There was something going on there, and from that moment on, I was petrified.
So my favorite thing to do on a flight is I have to get
inebriated.
No.
To be fair, pull that a little bit closer to you.
Sure.
I want you to sit back. I have no problem with you sitting back. I just want, babe, just pull the mic closer to you. There you go.
I'm just short for.
There you go. There you go.
I'm short by these chairs.
You're good.
But I always do like the National Enquirer or Globe. It's usually the Globe, the Big X crossword puzzle. And my goal is.
That's your routine?
It is my routine. I have to get a coffee. I have like a down pat. I miss flying. I haven't flown in a while. And then I have to do this. I have to start it when I get on the flight because they're not that hard. They're pretty easy. And try to finish it by the time I get off the flight.
So it's not like the New York Times.
No, they're like.
Puzzle.
Yeah, it's easy. Like you can fly through it. I try to. But at least it keeps me busy like while I'm on there.
Yeah, I used to try to sleep, man. And it's tough. I haven't flown since I gave up booze a year or so ago. When I go back to fly and knowing that I don't have that anymore, it's going to be different.
Well, and it's embarrassing to sleep on a plane, I think. Like you're like falling asleep, your mouth's like half hanging open.
Are you going to see?
You're
these
like your
people
neck's
anymore?
crooked.
Are you going to see these people anymore?
Well, I never really thought of that.
Really?
What if they take a picture and they're like, that's Mandi Pryor.
We are in the era of social media. You are right. That could happen.
I saw her on the Eric McKenna show. We need to post this. That's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, flying is something else. I mean, did you fly a lot though? When you were in Florida, you fly a
Once
lot?
I drove to Florida, that car ride is the worst ever. Like once you hit Florida, it's like 9 hours.
Because everybody tries to do it in one day.
No, it's just so boring. There's not a hill, there's not a tree. It's straight highway. It's the worst. I mean, it's gorgeous once you get up through Georgia. I loved driving through West Virginia. Once I hit that, I was like, it's just, hills and fun.
And West Virginia's roads are so much better than Pennsylvania's. You notice that? As soon as you get into West Virginia, the roads, man.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and they're great drives.
Yeah, but Florida is. I mean, I was down pretty far south, so it's 9 more hours. You're like, I'm in Florida. I have 9 more hours. So I drove down there once. I threw one cardboard box of clothes, mailed my clothes ahead of me, brought my cat down, and then when I moved back, I had one convertible, but it was like winter when I got up here. Had my cat and my dog in the front seat. It was a 2-seater.
You acquired a dog while you were down there.
Yeah, my beloved Tabitha, and that was it. That was the only 2 times I drove out of there. I refused to ever. I thought it was the worst drive. So I flew all the time, back and forth at least twice a year, if not 3 times, and then flew elsewhere. But yeah, so I really got into a routine of flying, and I think that helps a lot too.
I don't know if I'll ever be completely comfortable. And I flew a lot in my days, but it never was an enjoyable thing.
No, you gotta have your stuff. You gotta treat yourself. I
gave myself a treatment before I went on that plane. I can assure you.
If you're going to the Atlanta airport, give yourself at least 2 hours between flights. Go get a pedicure, sit in a massage chair, have lunch. Like, don't. Everybody wants to crunch it together when they do that connect to Atlanta, but that's literally the worst airport on the face of the earth. It's so big. Your flight's always like way across in a different, it takes you like 30 minutes to get there. So you're always running. I always was running. So now I take like 4 hours. I relax. It's way better. Take the day. Enjoy yourself in Atlanta.
Take the day. Peachtree. Atlanta. Atlanta's a big city.
Yeah.
Now you're back home, so when you came back home, there had to be initial shock, right? Because just the weather alone.
Well, I moved back, I think it was like December 10th. So it was snowing here. It was freezing. Like I remember the moving guys coming in, it was like minus 12. And I wasn't used to it. My body was totally different. And now it's funny because I'm the person who complains about the heat. Like I don't know what happened since I've gotten older, but I'm always like this weather today. I'm like this.
Wasn't that biological?
I think so.
Yeah,
it's been like 5 years where I just can't. I'm like, I wish it was 50. I want to move to Nova Scotia. Like
nice up there.
I like the cooler weather now. Like I couldn't imagine being hot year round or being in a tropical climate again.
The humidity of Florida is what always got me.
See, I love that because it's really good for your skin. So I just felt youthful. I was like, I have youth, water.
It's because you're always perspiring.
Yeah, well, that's true too. So it was a shock, but it was really nice to be home with my family. I moved back to Aspinwall, which my grandmother lived there, my mom, my aunts. It's a very small town, and so I loved being home. I have not ever regretted leaving, and I'm always like, if I make a major life decision, it's like I have to make it right then. So it was like I finished the MMA fight. I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm going to move home. Okay. 1 month later, I'm out. I lived there for 10 years. I'm like, bye, everybody. I'm leaving. What? I was like, it's been a long time coming. Sorry. I got to go.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, but it just felt like the right time, And Pittsburgh's great.
Well, you gave it 10 years, right?
Yeah, almost 10 years. I was almost considered a Floridian, so I couldn't let that happen.
Wait, what do you mean?
After 10 years in Florida, you're considered like a Floridian by, like they'll call you like, I forget.
Oh, is that just a thing, or it's not the law or anything, right? It's just a thing.
I think it's just a thing.
Okay. So you wouldn't go back down there to retire?
I'd probably be a snowbird. I don't think I'd ever want to give up living here, but I would love to go down there in the winter and, have fun. And I mean, that's what most of them are doing anyway.
Yeah. Florida and Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Arizona's nice.
Is it? I haven't been out that way.
Drier. Hotter, but drier.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably be, be a little old biddy, so I'll need the heat by then.
Yeah, retirement's different today, though. I mean, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. We had this roundabout on a prior show where I guess 20 years ago you were hearing, 40 is the new 30, and that was a kind of a catchphrase 20 years ago. But I think that's what society's doing. I know. I don't feel my age. I don't feel my age. Yeah, like I think, and maybe we're just being stubborn. But.
Well, I think that, like, being in my mid-30s, everything's finally coming together, though.
She said that.
Being in my mid-30s.
She'll be 40 next month.
I'm actually all right, I'll tell the world. I will be 39 next week. Next week. Come on, you got to give a lady a couple years there.
Of course. Of course.
I feel like my career...
Chivalry.
I've done so much in so many different avenues. I've worked for magazines. I've worked for film industry. I've worked at a cartoon art museum. I've done all kinds of different jobs. And I've worked at an ice skating rink. But everything finally came together. I feel like that's what your 30s are about, is like finally your career starts to come together. You kind of know what you want to do. You're making more relationships, and finally it's like all of those other experiences add up and they add together, and now you're like, okay, I know what my life focus is from here. And it might change along the way a little bit, but you feel more settled into a career rather than just kind of floating and trying to figure yourself out. Like, you have yourself figured out finally, and you're as you get older. So that's nice. I think that's the good part. And plus in your 30s you don't worry about stuff as much. Like,
really?
You worry about different stuff, I guess, but the stuff you worried about in your 20s, you're like, that was so silly.
Well, certainly.
Like, why was I worrying about any of that? So
yes,
it's good.
I would agree. The 20s are a decade where most people, not all, but I think most people are somewhat lost.
Yeah. Because
life gets thrust upon them in a big way. You go from mom and dad almost immediately to like snap of a finger, poof.
Pay some bills.
It takes like 10 years to probably kind of maneuver that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to be a little bit older and wiser, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And I've always been driven. Like, that's never been a problem for me. I when I did work, I was like 23 when I worked for the magazine. And I remember I was interning there for free before I got a paid role. And then I'd go waitress. And then I'd go do a marketing gig until like 2 a.m. So I was always going. And that's how I am now. Like, I have kids now, so it's a little bit different. I try to like restrain myself to a couple nights a month to go out and have events.
Right.
But I'm still always going, whether I'm home with the kids or I'm out. Like,
certainly,
I don't sit down. I mean, there's just not time for that because I have goals, and I feel like now is the time. Like, seize the day. Now is the time to go after what I want. Not only for myself, but now I have kids to worry about. So they need the stability as well as seeing mom go out. Like, that's why I mentioned before, I am taking figure skating lessons. I made a new bucket list. It's a ridiculous sport. I know most people are like, I don't even know a figure skater. But it's a lot of fun. I have a coach, and I want my kids to see that. I'd be like, I don't care what age you are. Go out, do something that you never thought you'd do or you've always wanted to do. Like, don't make age, don't make how old you are, what gender you are, any of that stuff stop you from doing whatever you want in life, because it is short. I mean, you should do everything every day to like live your best life, because you're only doing it once.
Absolutely right. And I think that we need to, as older folks, convey that to the younger folks, whether it's kids, whether it's teenagers, people in their 20s, that not to preach, of course, but when asked, I think, the fragility of life and how short that should be easily visible to anyone if they're paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a year this year that, with COVID and everything else, that genuinely completely disrailed me for a while. But at the same time, rebuilding and figuring out where I want to go going forward, I think it was completely supposed to happen. There's so much muck and so much bad relationships and friendships and stuff that needed to be changed to level up to go to where I want to be.
Okay.
And I felt like I was always changing, but it really needed like a kickstart. So it's been, I think COVID was a lesson for everybody.
Let's talk about COVID a little bit. So
All
where
right.
were you when, this has been an interesting question to ask people. Where were you when you realized that, oh my God, what was on the news, a month ago, it was happening overseas. It's like, wait a second, we're shutting down tomorrow?
Yeah.
Really? Like, where were you? What was going on in your life at that moment when you realized that things are not going to be the same tomorrow that they are today?
Well, I was planning a Topgolf event for the
Okay.
Chamber of Commerce, and we were supposed to have an event, and it basically, I think it was the week before, shut down. And I was like, oh, okay, we're all moving home. Okay, we're shutting down everything. Okay, we have to do this. And it was, I thought I was scared for sure. We were like spraying everything down, and the masks and the gloves and the gloves and the masks and the bleach. And you're like, it was overkill in the beginning. I'm sure a lot of households were,
All of us were.
we were all really worried. And the way news media is, this is their big topic too. So they're going to keep, it is scary. They need to inform us, but also, some of the stuff is they're repeating the story all day long. And that's part of the news industry. But at the same time, constantly like putting that pressure on everybody that this terrible pandemic, and they're going to use those buzzwords, these terrible pandemics coming upon us, and you really have to stay safe. It's unprecedented. And you're watching Italy, which was the worst thing. Is Italy was just, you just couldn't imagine it. It was just like watching a horror show. And it's coming here. And I think it definitely was really scary at first. I think as anything like that would be. Mm-hmm. But then things seemed to, not completely go away from that, but settle into a rhythm. Like it was the new normal. And so now you had your hand sanitizer and, you did your thing. But, I think everybody had to relax a little bit.
They shut down.
To survive.
They shut down like society. That's the one thing that I couldn't grasp, because it was almost fathomable that certain portions of society, I guess we could as a society maybe shut down an industry or multiple industries or certain things, but to shut down society.
It's crazy.
I never thought that was even possible,
well,
but
and
it happened.
I think that's very unhealthy too. I'm an extrovert, and I think that was one of the hardest things, is the loneliness that comes from not being around people. But you being in the real estate industry, I'm sure there's, we all know it's a seller's market right now. If you're putting your house up, it's probably going to go in a day. It's probably going to go above asking price.
Right.
But there isn't those homes yet that are available. I know that the industry is struggling a bit. But that's in complete, the commercial real estate industry at the same time, they need that too. They need those employees to come back. So both of the
No doubt.
residential and commercial need those employees back. And the only way is to say, all right, lift restrictions, get your people back in the office.
Yeah, we were down for 6, I don't know if it was 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And I remember getting the call from my broker, and I was talking with him, and I said, we're not shut down. He goes, we are shut down. You can't do anything legally. You can't do anything. You can't contact a client. You can't show a house. You can't continue on the path with the current clients, even if they're midstream in closings in the inspection process. So it really, and I'm sure most of us, hopefully most or all of us, hopefully the majority of agents did the right thing legally. I know I did, but it was painful. And I felt bad for a lot of my clients, and my job was to make it as less painful for them ultimately until we could open it, which we did. But boy, never thought that was even possible to tell real estate to shut down. And Pennsylvania was one of the last states to reopen, or the last state to reopen for real estate. Governor Wolf deemed us completely non-essential, and that was it. So I get it.
You stay put.
Yeah. So, there's just all kinds of consternation there, but that'll flush itself out over time, all the decisions that were made. But we really as a society didn't have a plan for this, right?
No, there was absolutely no plan. And now it's like, well, I hope this was a learning lesson.
I hope
that we need, we have disaster relief programs for flooding and stuff like that. Well, what about a pandemic coming into town that just shuts us down? I think we should have a pretty solidified plan of attack. I know with my role in the chamber, I was trying to get loans out to people as fast as possible and trying to match everybody up and give them information as soon as it came in, because those people can't get unemployment if they're a business owner.
Yeah.
You know, they're just kind of hung out there to do what they can. And
we had that problem.
We were trying to feed people. Like it's not just like the person in the low income bracket now that needed food. It was people that you ran into.
Well, of course, people that would just go. I mean, I'm an independent contractor. You know, I'm fortunate I wasn't in any immediate concern with this, but it sucked. But there are people that are independent contractors that are living, month to month, and those folks in all walks of life, different industries, they went from living and scratching out a life for themselves to having nothing. Yeah, I mean, that's horrifying to me.
It is, and there wasn't a way around it. It's not like they could go get another job. I mean, there was some opportunity, but most of it, everything shut down, and was just like, we're going to stay put exactly like this for 1 year.
Mm-hmm. And it's been a year now. I mean, we're end of May here. We're filming this. It's been a little over a year. And do you feel we're coming back? Do you feel?
I do. I do feel like, I mean, in terms of the commercial real estate market, I know they're coming back. As soon as they start getting the employees back in, I think that's when people start moving from the residences. I think they're pretty much hand in hand. Getting people out of their homes. The people who are still at home, they're going to still be at home. They're not going to sell their homes. But once everybody starts kind of integrating back into society, I think that's when you're going to get the movement coming back. I just think it's going to start now that mask restrictions are off and the restrictions are off, but it's going to take a year to rebound. I mean, I know before this, I've worked with real estate clients and they were posting a new house like every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was
the market
crazy.
Completely changed. Yeah.
I think it's going to be not going to bounce back to that, but I think over the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing things pick up. I already know that in my region in the South Hills, people are building buildings again. People are moving in. People are starting to get back to their activities.
I think that definitely residential construction needs to resume to help offset the lack of housing. I think that needs to happen. But we're seeing price spikes, and there's some obstacles, but those things will flesh themselves out. I do have some concerns about commercial, though, because I wonder how much was learned during the pandemic with these firms that they might not have to house as many people as they had prior.
With the hybrid schedules.
What do you think?
I mean, I've been back in the office now for quite some time, and even with Rocco, I think since December, and we'll get to him in a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm so much more productive in office than I am at home.
I think most people are, right?
I think so.
Not everybody, but most people.
Maybe not everybody. And I'm pretty, I run my own business that's out of my house. So I know what it's like to be productive, get stuff done quickly. I'm on a time frame. I have 2 little boys. I have 3 jobs. I'm going, as I said. But I still would do laundry and make a breakfast. And normally I'd prep ahead and have it ready to go. It's just more efficient. Yeah. And my work schedule was more efficient because I had to get stuff done in the office. And then when you're home, you're distracted. So I don't think it's as effective for employers to have everybody at home. However, you'll have that pocket of people who worked really well at home and haven't changed.
So do you think the landscape's going to look different maybe a year, 2, 3 from now, where you'll have a lot of optional circumstances for employees to work from home as opposed to coming in? Will there be situations?
I think there'll just be more grace about it. I think being tied down to a desk from 8 to 4 might not be as prevalent as it was, but I still think they're going to have a desk and it just, they might not need as much office space, but they're still going to have a desk. They're still going to have a place to come. They still have to go to meetings. Nobody wants to be on Zoom anymore.
Because it's so bad.
Oh, I know. And I run Zoom meetings, and they're informative, and there's great people on them, but it's still Zoom. It's not in person. Right. And, I've gone to a couple in-person events this week, and what a difference. Oh, yeah. Everybody was smiling. It's like, I think people are going to look really forward to coming back, being in person, being in an office.
I think so.
And getting out of their homes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's one of the lessons I think that we hope to learn from this would be the interpersonal relationship, the need for that.
Yeah.
You know, for most people, again, there's no absolutes in conversation, but for most people, I believe. And I would hope that we're a little more grateful for things. I would hope.
I think so.
I mean, I know I am. That's for sure.
I have a lot more gratitude for the day-to-day, for the hour-to-hour than I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important. I think that, you know, this experience has been a challenge to think, what could happen tomorrow? Like, what if there isn't a tomorrow? So why are we, you know, we've had such a scope before this pandemic came in of, we have so much time. Like, we have a whole year or 6 months to do this. And instead now we're like, we might not.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't wait. Like, it's time to live. And I think that, I mean, the Roaring 20s, I do think that people will be
too.
Thrilled to be alive and out. I hope so. I mean, we hope the second wave doesn't come into town, or, you know, that they have overseas. But I think, you know, just seeing people as they are, and I know some people take more time to get back into society. You know, I think that everybody's going to be just so happy to be alive, and, you know, things don't feel strange. I would say it doesn't feel weird to go out and see people again. It feels like I've missed it.
Yeah, I think the masks, and this has nothing to do with their validity or non-validity, or that whole discussion is just nothing that interests me. But I think the visuals of the masks is that one barrier still that makes it feel really unnormal. It makes it feel the experience not normal. And once that eventually goes away, I think that'll be the issue or the reissue of normalcy.
Well, and I am a person who does not like, I do like wearing sunglasses, but I don't like sunglasses on people that I'm talking to.
Especially
I definitely don't like
right?
masks.
Indoors.
I wore one of those clear masks for a while because I said, this is friendlier. I miss people's faces, and I don't like sunglasses. Oh, now you put on the sunglasses. Well, now I can't trust you. But you can't see a person's eyes. You can't see how their mouths are moving. It's like,
is that what it is?
Like,
why
is.
do
It's
rock
not
stars,
as trustworthy.
Why do rock stars always wear them in interviews all the time?
Oh, because it's really cool to wear sunglasses in interviews.
Is that it? I mean, is it they don't want people reading their eyes? Is it because that makes them look older? Their eyes, their aging rock stars especially put sunglasses on for interviews. It drives me insane.
Or they're
aside.
Doing recreational activities before their interviews.
I don't think that a lot of that goes on anymore. I think hopefully people are a little more wise about their health, even in music. But who knows?
Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But I've never liked sunglasses on other people when I'm talking to them. Like, can you just like take those off? Because I feel like you can't get to know somebody if you don't see their whole face.
Of course.
So that's why I don't like the mask. Plus, I couldn't wear lipstick, so. You're going to see a lot of lipstick on this girl for a while.
Well, the mask is hard. I was out working with clients and, you know, doing all the social distancing and all the hand sanitizer and the booties, and there was gloves for a while for show. It was just nuts.
Yeah.
Doing all that, but I didn't realize how much I needed to see my clients' facial expressions in my conversations with them at properties, and not seeing that. And with some of these folks just not knowing what the hell they're thinking.
Yeah.
Because you can't see anything.
You can't see anything. How can you trust somebody you can't see? Because visuals and like meeting people, that's huge. Like you immediately, like they can say, oh, you know, first impressions, first appearances. Everybody judges everybody on their appearance. Snap judgment right away. It says within like 3 seconds. You're like, this is this person. And then, you know, some people you like change as you go, but generally speaking, have those people changed in your perspective? Like some people might surprise you, but generally speaking, you're pretty much, that's the person you met, that's the person they're going to be, that's what you have. So, you know, it's important to get rid of the mask so we can start getting to know people again, because I feel like you could have ran into 15 people in a grocery store that you would normally talk to.
Exactly right.
No one's talking to each other because you're like, I don't know this person.
That's terrible.
And I'm never going to recognize them again because I can't see their face.
That's exactly right.
Excuse me, can you just show me your face briefly? And then you can put the mask back on. Thank you.
Oh my God. And what's crazy too is that I would go to in the winter I would have like a skull cap on, and then I would have this mask on. And I was wearing, I was the guy wearing the black gator mask. I know they're not effective, but I wore them.
How dare you?
But I had that on, and then I had sunglasses if it was sunny out, and I would just go run into the Whole Foods or Giant Eagle and run in. And then I kind of glanced at myself in the mirror. I'm like, holy shit, you can't, I'm completely invisible.
Yeah.
Sunglasses,
I've
gator mask, and skull cap. I mean, these cashiers got to be freaked out of their mind.
No, I've gone into stores with my sunglasses and my mask like more than once, and I'm like, I look like the invisible person.
Yeah, or else I'm robbing the joint.
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I take my sunglasses off.
Have you spoken to anyone in your sphere during COVID who is actively dating? And I'm dying to know how that went, whether it was online dating, whether it wasn't, whether it was just, how did the whole dating experience, especially for middle-aged folk, I wonder really how that went these last 12 months. Because think about it. I mean, you go and you meet, or do you meet? Are you afraid to meet? Are some people afraid, or some people aren't? Some were wearing masks, some aren't. How did that work?
I have no idea. I don't know anybody who's dating. Honestly,
I got to get somebody on this show to let me know how the hell that went.
I want to know.
I want to know.
I
too.
bet they just went out because if they're like on dating sites or something, then they're
People
definitely
with
like
Match.com photos.
They
with
really want to meet somebody.
On
Well, could you imagine being a single person who was sent home from work, working at home by themselves, and they live alone?
Right.
You'd be like, I can't. I need to go date somebody.
Well, yeah.
Like,
think about the depression. I mean, think about it. If you were a person that was already struggling with relationships and you're a single person and you're out there and you're frustrated trying to find a mate, or trying to, at least with no intention of maybe marriage, but just finding someone to have a relationship with.
Find your COVID love.
Well, think about being told that now you're quarantined, you can't go to work, you got to stay in your apartment.
Maybe they just put up a piece of plexiglass between them and just mouth things at each other. Like, yes, it's nice to get to know you.
I guarantee shit like that had to have happened. There's no doubt. But for a while, no one was sitting in a bar, right? The bars you weren't allowed to sit in a bar.
Like, what were their dates like? Welcome.
We need to know.
I have sanitized this side of the couch for you. And I've individually wrapped up your to-go box. So that I have not touched. Right?
That is great. Yeah. How do you? That seems just.
Here's the last touch though. They presented them with like gifted monogrammed masks and gloves. They're like, here, I've brought this for you.
I'll pass it underneath the divider.
Yeah. I'm sure some of them just were like, I don't care about COVID, and they just.
I would think they'd have to be though, but
where do you go? You just have to go to their house. I would not feel comfortable if I was like a single person meeting somebody I've never met and been like, "Will you want to come to my house?" No, I don't. I want to go to a public place.
How did that work? Inquiring minds want to know, what was the online dating experience?
Yes,
during COVID.
Under this post on Facebook, LinkedIn, I'm not sure where you post, Instagram, please. If you've been dating during COVID, let us know how it went. You might be on Eric McKenna's show. I think I just plugged your show for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you just did. That's a fantastic idea, man. Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Get them talking. Like, we want to know what it was like.
How the hell would they have done it? I mean, I don't know why I didn't dive into this mentally or like months ago, but it's fascinating. Like, why? What did they do?
They made a relationship with Netflix, food.
Ate.
And hopefully some of them found a good distraction of some kind. Like,
do you think that there was not enough, I don't know, information or suggestions or rules from the government on nutrition and vitamins and exercise and things like that during this? Because all we heard was there's going to be a shot in the arm that's going to take care of you, which I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. I'm on board with science. But I'm saying that there wasn't much discussion from the government about,
how
obesity, better diets,
healthy, all
mental
that.
health.
Yeah.
exercise, getting some nutrition in your system. None of that was addressed at all. I mean, like specifically addressed for the pandemic in conjunction with social distancing and
not being able to do yoga in person. And
I guess.
I mean, I focused, the chamber completely turned around within the first few weeks. Immediately, I became, instead of an event planner, I became an advocate and pushing all of these loans and all of this information and unemployment and, trying to get people in, trying to get experts in to help all of the members in the business community. And then towards, things slowed down media-wise, probably around, I would say, June or July. It kind of shifted a little bit. And so I started bringing in a yoga instructor, a meditation guide, like people to help with the stress levels of what was happening now.
Certainly.
So I did focus on, at least for the chamber members, on, dealing with their spiritual side, their mental health side, their exercise. I mean, that's huge. If you're working out at home, you have to be home, like get some fitness in somehow, like do something to be active.
Right.
Because the more you sit at home, the more depressed, especially if you're an extrovert like me. That it was extremely hard. I know that now I'm going to talk about Rocco. Mm-hmm. Hello, Rocco Koza Law
Rocco
Group.
Koza.
So my third side hustle, I work for Koza Law Group.
And Rocco's he's been on this show multiple times. If I ever had a regular, he's up there.
Yes, fantastic business legal attorney. And the other lawyers in his group are great. And of course, Mia. I'm going to give you a shout out, Mia. And coming in there in December, that was my first, the chamber, we were alternating days. I never saw my administrator.
Okay.
And, I went into the office with Rocco and the crew. And it was a huge turnaround for me that, oh my gosh, there's life and there's jokes and there's, we're discussing concepts and we're planning for this, law group and how we're going to do the marketing for it. And he'll be very proud of me that said law group because I always want to say law firm. And but
law group.
But it is a huge difference just interacting with people in person. And I think you cannot replace that via Zoom. You cannot replace that.
Thank you.
So that's why I'm saying the commercial real estate industry has to come back. It's going to make a comeback. I think hybrid will be on its way out. I think some Zoom meetings will be there to stay because honestly, my schedule is so busy that going for coffee, driving to the coffee, having the coffee, it takes up to 2 hours, an hour and a half. I don't have an hour and a half. Whenever I could do a half-hour Zoom, bust out everything that we need, and then get on. It's a lot more efficient in that term of like the little one-to-one meetings.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be out, but that can be done in the office as well. I think there's you're not going to feel connected to your job unless you're in person at your job.
Yes, I would agree.
Right?
I would agree. Yeah, there's no way that we can put a seismic shift into society and then start dictating that the world runs via Skype and Zoom. That's insanity. I mean, that was a stopgap to get us through and keep us functional during a time that we couldn't be around each other. But that time is slowly coming to an end. And it's time to use this as a tool. It's real depressing to me. Not depressing, but it's an annoyance, I should say. We have all this technology today doing crazy. Elon Musk is nuts, right? But we still don't have high-speed data connectivity good enough to create software to provide a real HD experience, a real HD or super HD experience on the video conferencing. It still looks like shit. It still sounds like shit. And this is the reason I will never do one of my shows virtually. I just
I've been doing my show on Zoom, and it is, my hair is half missing because it's blonde because it picks up on the light tones. I do think that if you're out there listening, Mac and Windows, that's the next concept. Is the next computers are going to be very expensive, and the cameras and the software in them is going to be so high tech that it will be HD. I think that's going to be the wave of the future when it comes to the computers. Is how can they do better? We should have already had it, but I think now we're so dependent on these computers that it's like you have to upgrade them. They have to be able to serve that purpose. That I did a ribbon cutting virtually this week, and I have big scissors, right? It's like my favorite
Those
thing.
things actually work, or are they a prop?
Mine are so sharp.
So they actually cut. I always wondered about those Dumbo scissors.
When I first started with the chamber, mine were completely dull and wouldn't cut anything. And I was like, everybody just hold it really tight. And I'd pre-cut the ribbon. So
You cheat.
I know. I'd be like, all right, you have to cut it right here. Okay, everybody smile. Okay, great. Now I have these brand new, like, enormous blue scissors, like blue-handled scissors with the silver cutters.
Right.
I was at a ribbon cutting last week for Millie's Homemade Ice Cream out in South Fayette. And I like handed the girl, the new owner, the scissors, and she didn't even mean to, but it almost cut right through the ribbon. I was like, I only have one ribbon. Like, they're so sharp. So I mean, they're very useful. I could like trim hedges, give haircuts, COVID cuts. I did some of those. I am a terrible,
and you don't even
terrible
have to be close
hairdresser.
to the person, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
How did you maneuver all that? Because
I gave some bad haircuts.
Don't you think
even
there's
the dog had a bad haircut?
Ton of bad haircuts out there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I should not do.
What an industry that got killed. They got killed.
I know the barbershop still hasn't rebounded. I know a couple of the hair salons. But it'll come back. I have to get my hair done. I'll be there soon.
Yeah, I quit doing that.
What?
Yeah,
Why?
I just went all natural.
Well, it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just try to keep my dome from having too many lumps, That was pointed out to me that some guy goes to me, he goes, did you ever look around? A lot of bald men really shouldn't be bald. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's some really lumpy heads out there.
Oh, I know.
Now all of a sudden, of course, now my brain is all like.
Well, they say that bald men are more respected and make more money. So it's a good thing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How's
You're
that
very
possible?
distinguished. I find you very debonair with your fully showing your, I guess, brain capacity to the world. Congratulations.
Is that what it does?
I don't know. I'm just trying to make you feel better.
I'm colder now. Yeah,
teasing.
I let that ship sail. I'm a kid of the 70s, early 80s, so I had the long hair, the rock hair.
All right.
It was great, man. I had this middle part, feather back. It was nice. So when I say I miss it, I have something to look back at when I really had it. Like, if you're a guy that always got short haircuts your whole life, you don't miss it.
Yeah.
I miss it. I'm over it, but I kind of miss it.
I have always had baby fine hair.
Okay.
Apparently I have a lot of it. It's not thin. It's baby fine. And the girls I went to school with in elementary school had this thick, luxurious, long hair. And I still cannot grow my hair past my shoulders. It just breaks because it's so fine. It's so teeny. And so I've always hated my hair. And now I have it short. And I'm like, nothing like being 38 years old and having short, because you just automatically think of like an older woman. But now I call it my power cut. So it's my power cut.
That was a thing years ago, though, right? Women over a certain age weren't supposed to have long hair.
Well,
that was a thing.
Probably should have never had. I mean, it's fine. It's not thick. So I've given up on, men get bald, women get
Join
short
the
hair.
club. Yeah, it's just easier.
I call it my
to
power
shave it
cut
off.
now, though.
I think women should just all shave their hair off too. If we all looked the same, everybody would be.
It's like that on an episode of Friends. She bicks her head.
I never saw that shit.
I don't think I'd do that.
I was a Seinfeld.
I don't think I want to go that far.
Yeah.
But I think also as a woman gets older, like, you don't care as much about, like, you
Brittany
care
did that,
about
right?
what you look like. Yeah.
Do it, Brittany.
2007 Brittany. You're my girl, Britt.
And she's never recovered from that.
I've seen her on Instagram, and there's something. I feel bad. I think she went through a lot of stress, and I think it just bubbled over.
Think your old man stole
Yeah.
our money, but hey, what do I know?
And her mom. I thought her mom was awesome, and then I started watching that thing, and her mom.
Celebrity.
You don't know what to believe, though. I just feel like she just got very overwhelmed, and.
Well, so let's celebrity in general, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the problem is? Let's talk problems for a second. Because you're a very positive person. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. Like, this social media culture we're in, why are we screwing it up? Because to me, it's an unbelievable tool if it was used for good. Just the way that we can all interconnect and share our lives with each other, and whether it's children, our activities, all that stuff could be amazing. It's
Yes.
like And it's 'cause I think it does play to the ego of everyone, because everyone wants to contribute, whether it's broadly or whether it's a little bit.
Yeah.
We all want to contribute something. And I think that social media gives us the ability to do that, but it's so bastardized, and it's now oftentimes, sometimes it's not used for good.
Yeah.
It's
well,
not.
I mean, Facebook is I do, the people I've gone through my lists this year, cut a lot of people. I mean, it got to the point where everybody's adding everybody they didn't even know to like build your network. Well, then you have your kid photos and stuff on there. But then the other way of thinking of, you're putting your kid online. Most of the people who are on I know pretty well. They're friends, family. Like, we don't connect. I see their kids. Everybody's kids are on there. There isn't really that big of a difference. If you take your kid to a park with a ton of people,
I agree.
You're showing people, everybody there, and they're strangers.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
But like I've said, LinkedIn. I love you, LinkedIn. You're my boy. Like, I do great on LinkedIn. I think it's just the best business network. It's very business focused.
Right.
And
how have they kept that from not becoming this big social party? Because people have tried.
Yeah.
I've seen some posts on there that were kind of cringeworthy on LinkedIn. Like, wow, this doesn't belong here.
And it's starting to like leak in there a little bit. I have noticed that, certain stuff like Facebook, where it's a little more kitschy or cute, comes in, and I'm like, yeah, all right, that's what Facebook is for. And Instagram, that's visuals. So some of the companies who don't do that well on Facebook or LinkedIn, who do really visual stuff, like art companies or print design, where they're going to be on Facebook like, I print t-shirts, but instead they can show their t-shirts and get a following. I think it's great, and I think it's definitely on the rise. TikTok is just fun. I still haven't done it because I think I'd get addicted to it. And I think social media can be a great tool. And, I say every night I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to, right now I have Bridgerton. I love that show. But I have a book, and I'm like, I'm going to read this book. And I was an English major. I've read 700 titles at least. I mean, at the very least, I was reading tons and tons and tons of books. But now I'm like, or I'll go on Instagram and scroll that for a while, like a few things, say hi to her.
It's addicting.
It is, but it's also soothing. If you ever notice, your blood pressure probably goes down, because a lot of it, if you have the right, anybody who's not making you happy on social media, just delete. Just delete. Get rid of them. There's no reason. There's political people, or snooze for 30 days is my favorite too. Don't have anybody in front of you that's making you upset. Like, I don't know why people continue in online relationships, especially that are more loosely based.
It's good advice.
Get rid of them. Like, they're not going to be that mad. I mean, maybe you'll see them and be like, oh yeah, well, whatever. I don't know what happened. Whatever you want to say. Like, don't keep negativity. My social media at this point, it's a lot of positivity. Like, everybody's...
But you have to curate that.
And yeah, there's stuff always going on behind the scenes, but we share that too. I have people who are going through cancer and chemotherapy right now, and we have groups together to do things for them. And we're constantly trying to back each other up. So I think it's a great resource in like keeping up with everybody, especially with COVID. What if there was no social media? We would have been completely isolated. It would have been awful.
Had this happened like 25 years ago. Right.
Yeah. But I've moved, and like my friends have moved, so there's a ton of people on there that I get to connect with that I wouldn't otherwise, and see their kids.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is the essence of just people sharing their lives. When it became an opinion outlet, that's when I think it gets a little dicey.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, of course, we just went through a seismic election, and a lot of people, on both sides of the equation feel things are right or wrong, and everybody thinks that their viewpoint's the right viewpoint, the correct viewpoint. It's caustic at times.
Yeah. There's certain people for sure, especially people who post the angry life posts.
Angry life.
Like, they hate, like, the divorcee women. And I'm not trying, like, I totally understand, and we're all relating if we need to, but like, posting out that he's an SOB, and I don't know if I could say that on
some of that
podcast.
shit is comical, though. I mean,
Oh my God.
I have
Yeah, but
seen some
sometimes it's
stories
all
that
the
are
time.
unbelievable, though. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there's random strangers that somehow I get connected on Facebook, or they sent me a friend request or something long time ago, and I never really met them in person, so I don't know them, but I know them
Yeah.
online. And all of a sudden, you see some massive drama, and it just starts playing off, and it's going back and forth, and I'm trying to, and this is how like bored I was during COVID.
Yeah.
I'm at home trying to figure out, like, okay, so is she talking about him, or did this happen? And I'm looking at the timeline. I'm spending hours trying to figure out what drama is happening between these three people.
I belong to these mom groups, and they will like, I forget, there's something will happen, and the one mom says something derogatory about the other mom, and it's like claws come out, and like you're putting up the Michael Jackson eating popcorn in the theater.
Yeah.
You're like, what is happening? This is great, because I don't know these people at all. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch this, and you're like watching people like dig, and the other people are like defending each other, and it's fantastic.
People don't, I shouldn't say people, some people,
Yes.
when it comes to technology, are, at different levels of understanding how this all works, the internet. Some people use the internet for specific things, but don't understand the internet in its entirety.
Sure.
Even today.
It's enormous.
So they're using the internet to spout off, not understanding, really understanding that it's going to anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Yeah.
And I think if they really understood, maybe they wouldn't do it.
Yes,
They
there
really
is a politeness. There's a social politeness that you need to understand before ever getting on social media that you need to follow.
You think?
Yes, it has to be. and I'm sure I've been caught up in stuff and been like, oh, I got to delete that now. Especially in my position at this point, I can't post anything of any like real opinion on there. I just kind of hang back a little.
I have to be, and this show gives me a little bit of an outlet too. But I'm really blessed in the fact that I don't like extremes at all.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of been in the middle of thought, pulling from a liberal bent, sometimes pulling from a conservative bent, but generally wading in the middle, and very indifferent in a lot of ways too. And I don't mean that in a cutting way. I'm just a very indifferent person when it comes to things that I can't control, and that really I don't deem to be so important in my life that I can't spend lots of time debating it internally. It's not worth it to me. So I can maneuver life in that regard pretty well, and the rest of it's just background noise. But I feel badly for people that are just so wrapped up into either side, their guy or their gal, or their cause, or that's all their identity is, and they wear it as a badge. And I think you can really do yourself long-term harm, socially, mentally, by living that way.
I mean, I agree, and it's like they almost it feels a part of them.
They want it to be a part of them,
but that's not what people are. You aren't a cause. You aren't. I mean, there's
exactly.
You aren't. It's a part of you. And everybody has their causes. Everybody has their stuff that they defend and believe, but it's not. It shouldn't identify you as a person.
What about the phenomenon that we're not our choices? Like there's big choices, landmark choices in your life, and inconsequential choices, like what you're going to have for lunch today. But in reality, you're really not your choices, because you have the ability through free will and reasoning that everybody should practice that to change your mind. So what you believe today that you think you believe, there's a good chance you may not believe that tomorrow or 10 years from now. So are you really what your choices are? Are you really defined by what you think is the right thing today? I would say no. And I think when you don't understand that,
sure,
it really causes some problems.
I think there's two ways to make choices. There's educated choices, and then there's impulsive choices. So I do think if you're doing an impulsive choice, then you could that could absolutely change. That could change in 3 months if somebody goes, oh yeah, but if you thought of it this way, like what did you say about the plane that I said, I never thought of it like that. That can immediately change the way you've always thought of something. But if it's an educated choice, then you go through the line of learning before you make that choice, and that is going to be a lot harder to change down the road, because you've done the time, you've done the research, you've looked at it from your perspective, from outside perspective,
Right.
and came up with why you're making the
Right.
choice. So I think that makes more sense to do it that way. But at the same time, are you living your life if you're always making these really long, drawn out, educated choices? Like
Still
jump out
wanna
of a plane.
Spend the time.
That's,
doing
I'm
it.
not going to think that one through. I'm just going to do it. Like sometimes you just got to do it.
Insane to me, but I get it. Well, I think having your core beliefs, and Rocco and I have bounced this around dozens of times, that there's not enough practice of good folks crafting a personal philosophy, even if they have to write it down. What do I believe as a person about my life? And when you're not centered in anything, knowing that can adapt and change as life takes you, but if you're not centered or principled, and how can you really then go out and maneuver effectively?
Yeah.
Because you're constantly I think you become too susceptible to any whim that comes along. And I think the society maneuvers that way. They say, "Oh, look at that dog on Facebook. That's a dog. I should go get a dog just like that. That's cute."
Yes.
And they rush out and get a dog without doing any research. Right? I mean,
I'm totally relating
it's
to that
an
one
example,
right now.
though. But I mean, I'm just saying that impulse thing. The prisons are full of people that did not practice impulse control. Would you not agree?
I agree. And I think, you have to sit back and if you believe in God, you do, or if you believe in something, you have to have a value or a core or something that makes you make the choices that you have.
I would hope.
But that doesn't always happen. There's
No.
people who don't focus on the long term or the beauty of life or kindness. Rocco said that before.
Mm-hmm.
If you focus on being kind to everybody, whether personally, grocery store, church, work, that comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to build your business because you're kind. You're doing better for everybody around you, which also makes you happier.
Mm-hmm.
And you being kind to yourself makes you happier. Like, you have to be kind to yourself. You cannot
Absolutely.
put yourself down constantly. You have to get some confidence in yourself through just being nice to yourself, giving yourself grace, giving yourself time. I mean, everybody messes up. Everybody has their things. Everybody has a hard time, but you have to figure out a way to get through it, and you have to do it with a little grace.
I think that's good advice.
I don't know if I completely went off topic there. But
No, we have no topic here. We never have topics. This is free form at its finest.
that's good. That's good. That's nice.
I don't think a lot of people love themselves, not to get real esoteric, but I think a lot of people are too hard on themselves. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for laziness. That's not what I mean. But I think what I believe to be is that people don't exude the kindness that I'd like to see in society because they're not being kind to themselves. They can't be kind to anybody else because they're not even treating themselves kindly.
Well, and I read this post the other day, probably in I'm like in Italian groups or
And what?
the Italian groups. Oh my gosh, they're hilarious.
The
But they always make
Italian
me
groups.
pray. They're always like, pray for my everybody. Everybody always praying on there. And then the
I
moms
can't find my
groups.
shoes. I don't know where I put them.
And somebody put like a meme up there and it said something along the lines like, you can do a good deed, but the second you put it on social media, it's all about you. And then I was like, no. I was like, because if you're a person in my position where I have a lot of people following me, and same with you, if you put out, hey, I donated to this cause, you should too.
why.
Here's the
Yeah,
info.
absolutely.
Tons more people will do it.
Yeah.
Like you're
sharing a good idea. Is what you're
sharing
doing.
a good idea.
And it's valid because you're showing people, look, I'm not just telling you to do something. I'm not asking you to do something that I have not already done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Now, if you put out there, like, I donated this t-shirt because I'm pretty much the most awesome person on the planet, like, probably you still might get somebody else to donate because they're the awesomest person on the planet too. But
My guess is going to be the person, if you were to put on social media or you were to share that, you made a contribution to this charity, and here's why, and I would encourage you, while there's a lot of great causes, if you find it in your heart that you want to do something for someone else, here would be a good idea. Here it is. If somebody looks at that as that's somehow self-serving, then number one, they were never the type of person that would think enough about someone else to donate anyways.
yeah.
The negativity is going to come from people that are not really in the conversation. Right?
And
I hate to
people,
be that
no
way,
matter
but
what
that's-
it is in life, they will always complain.
A certain
like
segment,
there's just somebody will find something to complain about. So you always have to let that roll off. I did a video game show. Mm-hmm. Don't Google it. Don't YouTube it. I did a video game show back in the day.
Video game show.
No, I was
Google
not
search.
Mandy. I was not Mandy Pryor then. So wait, I just gave you more secrets. Anyway,
look up the maiden name.
Oh my gosh. I mean, kind of funny, but I'm not a video game person at all.
Okay.
Like, I'll play with my son because he's 4, but he's better than me already. I'll play occasionally. It's fun for us. We do Mario Kart. But
that's a good game. That's the only game I know. It was on the Wii.
That's pretty much, yeah.
It was on the Wii. I get laughed at when I say that because people say that's not even a thing anymore. I'm like, well.
I still have my Wii, and I love it. I use it all
There
the
you
time.
go. It was the white console, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, with my kid. I don't play on my own. So, I'm on this video game show, and I was brand new out of Art Institute. It was right when I moved back here. And I don't know video games. But they were like, we'll hire you to be on camera and pay you a salary. And I was like, this sounds great. I'll do it.
Okay.
Well, the people on YouTube just ripped me apart. I mean,
of course.
it was like 3 months of just, from my appearance to
really? Yeah.
what I was saying. And I was just
YouTube
like this.
comments are like a wasteland.
Oh my gosh, you
It's a
can't.
wasteland.
You cannot read them. Like, if I wouldn't have read that first one, I wouldn't have seen the 500 other ones. And I was like,
That's like a wasteland.
I'm like the worst. Like, especially just coming out of school doing it.
Right.
And now I'm like, whatever. You have to get to that point. There's the one book, and I've had a hard year this year. The Art of Not Giving, and I'm not going to say
I have
the
book.
word.
I've read it.
And I hate audiobooks. Like, I will buy them, and then I don't listen to them.
It started slow, but it got good.
Yeah. Well, I think I listened to it for a little bit. Besides the point, this year, in the last 2 months, I have honestly said to myself, I have conquered the art of not giving a.
Right.
Like, it's finally here. I'm like, I can't. You cannot change what's going. Like, you can do your actions, your planned actions, make your life choices. But there's some stuff that's just out of your control. No matter what you do,
I think most of it, yeah.
you just can't. So you have to just
out of our control.
Be happy in the moment. Be happy every day for whatever. There's always something to say that you're grateful. No matter what your life circumstance, it could be worse.
Yeah.
And there's always worse. And if you look long enough on Instagram or in LinkedIn even, you'll see the worst. And you're like, that person's going through, like, that has to be a harder day than mine. Like, and if you think that way, you always find happiness.
We do. And I think there's an element of the human condition that breeds that nasty thing of selfishness. That all of us have it. It's just, are we able to suppress it and rechannel our energy doing something else? But there's that selfish part of the human condition that, that it's like, selfishness in that we do have empathy and sympathy for people going through tough times. We have the ability to do that. And some people are really good at doing that, but there's still that selfishness, like when it's our time going through something tough, even if it really isn't that tough, that me thing is like,
well, I think
it's there.
I think it's a human factor. Selfishness, you have to have it as part of you because you wouldn't do this show. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do what I do if there wasn't a bit of selfishness, because you're still an individual person. And I think you have to break it down to your individual self. Mm-hmm. Because you're the only person at the end of this life who's going to be in your life.
That is so true. There is a book by Ayn Rand, and whether people like her philosophy or not of objectivism, but she has a small book called The Virtue of Selfishness, and I read it when I was 18, and I've read it multiple times since, and I've kind of changed my opinion of her overall philosophy in general. Fascinating woman, but that book, The Art of Selfishness, was an eye-opener for me, and to this day is still a landmark reading for me. And it really made me understand why I'm compelled to do the things I need to do, and I don't find anything evil about finding something that I enjoy and pursuing it, and as long as I'm not hurting anybody, and if I deem it to be valuable, that's good enough.
Yes.
That's good enough.
I mean,
You know.
like figure skating, I'm not doing anything for anyone else when I do that. But I love it. And it doesn't hurt a single person. And
Except the toes, right? It's kind of hard on the toes.
no, not really. No, I mean, my feet get a little sore, but
You did a whole spin thing, like get in the center and
I
spin around real fast?
I've been working on it for 4 months, and my spin, like the what you really want to do is get a circle that spins in a circle like this, like in a, perfect circle. Mm-hmm. And for months, it's been like I'm like all across the ice. I'm like, where am I going? And today I actually pulled, there's a little 70-year-old. So everybody I skate with is like over 21 years old and up to 70.
Okay.
And all different levels. It's great. I mean, they're at competitions today. So there's competitions for older people. That's my goal. I want to do a competition. I never got to do one.
Right on.
But I like pulled them. I was like, you got to see this. I was like, look at that, because it's carved into the ice.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like want to fill it in with like
Crayons.
yeah, crayons, take a picture, be like the perfect circle. So that, I mean, it was a lot. It's fun for me, and it's something I always wanted to go back and do. And
Yeah.
it's, I have nothing else to do at that time of day. I'm not like putting myself off, putting work off, doing any of that. Like it's just my time. And I think you need that. You need something to do on your own that's just yours.
I think that's very important, and people don't do that, whether it was playing an instrument or whether it was, cooking. Ultimately, you do that for other people, but the art of cooking is something I think is a very individual thing for people.
Yes.
Just find that one thing. And I was hopeful when COVID started that people would find what they're really about. If you're going to be home and sequestered for a period of time, look inward and find the things that you want to do. Do you want to practice your golf swing? Do you want to learn how to play guitar? Do you want to, whatever it is, photography? It's just, what do you really want to do inside? I was hopeful, but I'm convinced now that people sat around and drank, ate a lot of food, and watched a lot of television and bitched about politics on the interwebs. That's what I think people did. I'm telling you, I hate to. I know that's negative, but that's what I feel most people did during the pandemic. That's what I think they did.
Well, I mean, I think there's a point that there was nothing to do. I mean, people started redoing their homes.
That? I guess. Yeah, I mean, Home Depot was open.
I'm active, and I run around and do all kinds of things. I took on a third job. I didn't have to. I could have sat on the unemployment line for... some of my pay, but I like to work and I like to create, and I didn't want some silly pandemic to totally derail what I've been working on. It was 2 months before.
Right.
2 months before the pandemic started, I had, I think, 7 events between my marketing company and my Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And I think I did like a show and 2 events and it was crazy. It was this crazy month that wasn't that common for me. And, everything was going really well. I was like, wow, this has been a really great month for my career. I was like, things are going on the right track. And I go, every time this happens to me, I swear something bad's going to happen. And I was right. It was like 3 weeks later, I went, there it is. I knew. But I feel like now that it's starting to come out of it, it's going to be even better, hopefully, than it was before. And there was a reason for everything that happened through this pandemic. And I think everybody has their something that happened personally, spiritually, that changed them during this. And if they didn't find that, then they really wasted a lot of time to reflect, because you're not in the office getting distracted by other people. You're not running from sport to athletic activity to whatever with your kids. You're literally at home staring at the people in your lives. What are they doing? And honestly, that, if you can't figure out what you're supposed to do next from this whole experience, then you wasted a lot of time not reflecting, because we never get a chance in this society. How fast everybody's supposed to move fast. You're supposed to hustle. You're supposed to, have your goals and do your things. And there's not much time for reflection. And this year was that. This year was handed to you. Here's money. Here's your family. Here's your home. Figure things out.
So true.
Right?
And I hope there are people going to look back and say, hey, I did a couple productive things during this period of time, or I learned this about my significant other or my friends or whatever. But you're right. And we shut this show down for 4 weeks when the pandemic first started, only because I didn't know, like everyone else, I had no idea what was going on. So I said, okay, I'll take a break for a couple weeks.
Well, and you have a social responsibility too, so.
Yeah, I didn't want to get anybody sick here because in the beginning we didn't know if it was on the surfaces. We didn't know what the hell was going on. Then it got a little more comfortable. People were like, well, and I said, well, what if I put people next door? So we had the guest next door. I took a mic and a camera over there, 2 cameras, and filmed them sitting over there instead of in here. And so we had the socially compliant studio arrangement here, and it was fine. And I actually put a computer screen on so we could see each other. But it sucked. We did that for 4 or 5 weeks. I think Rocco did a show over there with me, and we adapted, right? But I realized immediately that I was not going to stop because I had to stop real estate because the law required me to. There was nothing in the law that said I had to stop doing shows. If there was a law, I didn't see it. So I just kept doing my thing. It's too late now. I just kept doing my thing, and it was amazing to talk to people, even when they were over on the other side. And I could see when they walked in the building, even though I wasn't around them, I could see they were so happy to do something that resembled normality.
Yeah.
Something normal. Or normalcy, I should say. Just something that was real and tangible. And seeing Rocco and talking to him like, dude, what are you doing? He goes,
wait, so is Rocco like the person who got us both through our COVID loneliness? I'm pretty sure. Thanks, Rocco.
Thanks, Rocco. But actually, what I was going to say was Rocco revealed how he was getting like stir crazy because he was working from home entirely and doing work and then trying to, and he said, I found myself watching more TV than I should have. Mm-hmm. I found myself falling into bad habits, slacker habits because it was so easy and convenient. And then finally I had to say, wait. So getting him here, I think, if you talk to him, was one of the things in his life that changed at that moment. Like, wow, I got to get back to doing the things I love, and.
Well, and I went into his office, and I'm coming in at the end of my day. And I'm always a renegade. Like, I am a talker. I'm a blurter. Like, I'm fly by the seat of my pants all the time. And I was like, I've said it to other people. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm their comic relief at the end of the day. Like, they've been sitting there all day doing their work. And I come in and all this, I'm like loud and bubbly and like, I'm like, I have an idea. Everybody in here, come on. Like, so I bring energy. I try to bring energy in there. But at the same time, they brought me the energy I needed coming out of COVID in December to sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like they're fun and it was normal. It was normal. And it was, small enough. And now we're starting to like get him into his events and everything like that.
It's the longest year, right? How do you feel about the year? Like, I feel like I do feel like it was a hell of a long 12-month period.
Yeah. It really was. I mean, it dragged and dragged. Now it's like starting to pick up. The past few months, I mean, with work being slow too, you're just like, okay. Like, I love working. I love what I do.
Right.
I love working. I love working with the community, but I love advocacy and coming up with new ideas and concepts. I love working. And that even slowed. There was time periods it was just so slow, or there was just nothing going on, and you're trying to come up with something new, and you're like, there's nothing really new, and everything's still
right.
the same.
No, I get it.
So it's nice in the past couple months. I think it's that buzz of life. I think it's like the buzz of life went away, and we were going through the daily motions, but nobody was really living. Now everybody's...
We were learning more about people than we wanted to know or needed to know.
Yeah.
Because they were bored and they were just putting it was such an everybody was very reactionary or very impulse laden, where they were just and
what happens when you sit at home? You're gonna eat more, you're gonna watch TV more. Like, you're great if you're like the percentage that started to work out and was like, I'm gonna work out. I mean, I started going back to the gym, but I didn't touch anything forever. I was very limited. I was like, I'm using the elliptical, I'm spraying it down. Those hand weights, no, not the class. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was so selective. And I was like, I'm going to stand upstairs away from everybody.
And now looking back, really kind of pisses me off a little bit. And it's no one's fault, but it's like, that was so unnecessary. I mean, it wasn't the surfaces that were causing the problem. We spent billions in this country, I believe, on hand sanitizer unnecessarily. That just,
Yeah.
I mean, and the paranoia of touching things, and
then the people who
we
made
just didn't know.
the people who made benefit from, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but they made hand sanitizer, some of the distilleries and stuff, and then they were taxed afterward.
I know.
And I'm like, they're just trying to help out and like keep their business open.
Yeah, really, again, life is not fair, and I've never gone a route through my life as, I hate the word fair, because fair, how do I say this? In most instances, fairness can teach a young person to be jaded about everything they maneuver if they're keying on the concept of fair as opposed to achievement.
Sure.
So I'm not a big fair person, but there was a lot of injustices that happened because society shut down. Some industries were hurt way more than other ones.
Absolutely.
It wasn't very...
Some thrived.
It wasn't equitable that Home Depot could stay open initially where the local hardware store had to shut down. I didn't understand that. Or the Walmart would be open for food, but you couldn't have a local food store open. There was a lot of things that didn't make sense to me initially. But you know what? Life is you're going to encounter your unfair circumstances. You have to learn to not dwell on them. I mean, because if you can complain about the unfairness all you want.
Well, and I do
believe
believe
ain't gonna do nothing for you.
There's a reason for everything. Like, there's a reason this shut down, or you were supposed to not be in this. Like, I've said that time and time again. I worked at an ice skating rink, and I came in. I had just had my son. It was 12 weeks. I had 12 weeks with my baby, and this is my first child. And I'm crying on the way, and I'm like, I have to go back to work, and I'm leaving my kid, and like, you don't want to. You're like, you're so attached.
Right.
And I walk in the door, and I lose my job. Like, we can't afford you anymore, and the place was shutting down. And I went, I have like a list of like to-dos. I'm like, and we're not going to do any of this. So I'm devastated, but then at the same time, I'm like, I just stay home with my baby.
Yeah.
But I'm devastated. Like, what am I going to do for work? Well, that's when I started my marketing company, because I was home with the baby.
Right.
He's sleeping. And I was like, I'm going to come up with this marketing company. And
Right.
so
Right.
that led me to multiple opportunities, travel, led me eventually to the Chamber too, which came because of my marketing company. So all of it was like this path that at the time I was like, what's happening? Like, I just had a baby. How can I lose my job?
Right.
12 weeks out. But at the end of it, I stayed home with my son until 15 months. And then he was crawling over like the couch, and I was like, I have to go back to work now. I love you. You just can't do any. All of a sudden, they're like at this age, you're like, okay, okay. Like, you're just like, like it's impossible to manage. But look, I got 12 extra, a whole year more with my son at home.
Yeah. And
everything worked out in my career, and it was probably a really good decision. I wasn't super in love with the job that I was doing at the time anyway. So it all makes sense now.
Right.
So, people might have lost their jobs that they really loved, or people might have, moved out of or lost their brick and mortars, or, really struggled. But I think at the end of it, 5 years down the road, you're going to look back and say, wow.
I think so.
I'm so happy that happened to me.
I'm guessing there's definitely going to be some exceptions to that, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to look back. But again, it comes down to circumstances. Like, we can't control all circumstances. We have to deal with what we're given, and then find a way to make things the best they can be. And sometimes it's bigger and better in the end. And
so if I could interview the interviewee, what is one word that you would say that you learned from COVID?
Wow, that's a good one. This isn't fair.
I'd like to put you on the spot this time.
That's okay. I should have an answer for that. I don't know if I do. One word that I learned.
And it could be about yourself, or just like, what did you learn during COVID in one word? What was your... Okay.
I think I learned the definition, the real definition of indifference.
That's good.
Because I started feeling a certain way, a lot stronger than I have in prior years. And I go, what is this feeling of not caring so much about this issue or that issue or their fight or their fight. It isn't that I don't care about people, love people, but not really wanting to engage, like not wanting to be part of the conversation, feeling like let these people bash it out, even if I think I have an idea there. No. And I think that I went online to the dictionary there. Webster's is still a thing, and what does indifference really mean? And then I would vet that out with people like Rocco and my friends. Like, I think I really am practicing significant indifference. And I don't know if it's a Buddhist thing or whatever that is, but the pandemic made me realize that my life is happier and easier by not being so mentally wrapped up in other people's other people's discussions, other people's passions. I pick and choose now. I really pick and choose now. And I think that's the concept of practicing positive indifference. And that's the word I learned coming out of the pandemic. But it's selfish, but that's looking inwardly. Sure. That's the word I've been able to define and use.
Indifference.
Mm-hmm. And you say that and you get a lot of negative.
I don't think it's a negative word.
Well, a lot of people do. They think there's a negative connotation to that word. And I can understand
like snubbing or,
I think so. Like you don't want to be bothered. And in essence, sometimes that is the case.
Yeah.
Because you can only, the brain can only handle so much. I think
that's true too.
With age, this whole age and wisdom thing is, I think you're only going to be as wise as you want to be.
Yes.
You can be older and bloody stupid, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't learn from experiences, you don't become wise. So I think that's kind of the age thing might have something to do with the indifference, where I'm just tired of the battle. And we saw a massive battle politically online with this nonsense that went on in the past year in this country. And people wanting to join a team and all this stuff. And And I love baseball, so I root for my A's, right? That's the only team I care about. I don't care about
that I have to, by bylaws of the chamber, be politically neutral.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I'm like, I can't even begin to start with any of that stuff. Like, I can't. I just never liked politics from a young age, just discussing it.
But it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard to maneuver that way. I mean, you just did an event with a state representative. That political thing has to creep in somewhere, right?
No,
not
that
from
was,
you,
that was
but
pretty
around
neutral.
you, though.
Most of the stuff, like, I did do a big thing with they're trying to put tolling up on I-79, but it was bipartisan. So I'll only involve myself in stuff like that that's completely neutral.
So you can pick and choose.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I just stay out of anything that's, towing the line on which side and, whatever my beliefs are, they're mine. I don't even like to discuss it with, like, my family. I just don't.
Why do you feel that most people are totally okay either wearing it as an identity or shouting it out or insinuating or accusing? Why do you think most people have no problem being public with their views?
Well, I think there's a bandwagon effect. They identify with certain groups of people and they want to be a part of something, no matter what it is. And if they find anything that corresponds with the way they feel like they should be a part of that without seeing the other perspective. I think a lot of the times the different there is two-party system. I think there's huge faults in that completely. Mm-hmm. But because there's just, on both sides, there's always good. It's just hard to convey it in and one person. In bad, absolutely. And I just think that people close their eyes to, or aren't educated enough on the other side.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't know. They don't want to learn it because they always felt that way. They've always been taught that way, or they don't believe in it.
I think trying to understand someone else's viewpoint opens up all kinds of personal insecurities. Like, my whole thing is, and this is kind of what I crafted since doing this show, because I said to myself, man, if I'm going to sit down and do this show and have really honest conversations, then the only way I can do that is, number one, keep my own damn mouth shut, which I'm still working on, but really listening.
My blood pressure went up when you started asking about. I was like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
There is no wrong thing here. I don't want to come into this conversation with anything that is not pure humility, meaning that I want to learn and I want to be open to everything. And it's been fantastic. I use that word a lot, but it's been great because I have had my mind changed on so many things by just hearing other viewpoints on this show. I mean, I didn't prescribe to a political party before I started the show, but now I have disdain for both of them so much because they don't fit like this. If I gave you a list of things I believed, you'd be going like this, crossing the T back and forth. So how would I possibly join a party that doesn't represent what I actually uniquely believe? But I don't think people look at it that way. So what I'm saying is I came to every conversation with humility, assuming I know nothing, and then leaving that conversation going, oh my God, I always thought of it this way, but now how can I possibly do that? Well, that takes humility, and I believe that most people find that uncomfortable. And it doesn't make me special at all. It's just I'm saying most people
I think you're special.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think most folks, and me at a younger point in my life, were so brazen that I'm always right, or it's the ego or whatever, that they won't enter conversations with humility because that leaves you susceptible that you might be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I've really taken a lot in the past, I would say at least 10 years, being the person to say sorry. I mean, I think it takes a lot out of a person. Some people will never say sorry no matter what. And I think just saying, I messed up, that's a hard thing for the ego to say that you're wrong. But I think the more you do it, the more it's like, this is the right thing to do, no matter what. Even if the other person might be wrong at something too, and they don't apologize back, that you're saying it's okay.
Right.
I need to say I'm sorry because I've done something, rather than the opposite.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's so important to be married to an opinion. I think that's screwing up society. We aren't open to the reality we might be wrong, or there might be another way to do things, and that I just don't. Some people will die on that hill with that belief, even when they've been shown multiple times that they're wrong. And they're smart folks, but they want to be right at any cost, and they'll die on that hill.
That's a snooze for 30 days kind of person to me.
I would hope that they'd be embarrassed maybe a year, 2 or 3 years if they were to go back and look at their old posts.
I think some people just like arguing. I think some people like debating. They're trying to stir things up. They're trying to make a stink.
You think?
Yes.
Think people like that?
Oh, yeah.
Like they get enjoyment out of it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Really? See, I don't. That's so foreign to how my brain works. I don't get it.
I just
Now, maybe I do get it. If I wanted to start an argument about music, I'd say so-and-so, something quirky, like this producer produced the best records of this band, come at me. That's always in fun and in jest. People are debating music. Yeah. And I guess you can make the argument that gets people's emotions going. I guess like politics gets people's emotions going. I put that in a different category. Music is an entertainment to me. But I guess the news is now entertainment. How do you fight that off? You are in news. You at one time wanted to be part of a news organization. What does the news look like to you today in terms of how that exists? I mean, that was...
Well, I think news has to completely change. I mean, television news kind of is still around the same concept. They're starting to integrate into social media. But newspapers, they're more like marketing companies at this point.
Okay.
So they have their newspaper, but now they have all these integrations. I mean, the Post-Gazette I know has complete digital packages of, advertising and
what about how it's run?
Algorithms and all of this.
Okay.
I think they're just trying to figure out how to make it work so that they can still offer this concept of newspapers, which a lot is read online, but I think there's still an audience for their paper news. And still be able to continue on doing what they do, because it is a different, there's news everywhere now. You could start a news site, writing articles, get a bunch of people together, write articles. There's so much competition that form of news is really hard to keep up with. But I think now that they're integrating the marketing into it, it helps. But is that taking away from what the original concept was, which was a paper newspaper? Is it... is it slowly weaning away at the news and how it was done?
I think so. I think it's entertainment, but I think right now, and it's been a long slog to get here, but it's now not really news anymore. It's opinion. It's like it's editorialized. You have CNN feeling a certain way, and Fox feeling a certain way, and MSN feeling a certain way over here, and then all the little smaller ones that are really editorialized. And the idea of giving some whatever facts are, right? Because we can do a whole show on do people really believe facts anymore? What are facts? Because I'm convinced that certain sections of society...
he's getting very philosophical now.
Well, certain sections of society believe what they believe at any cost, and they're dyed in the wool with those beliefs, and they will take facts and make them fit their story. So I think you have to look to science as what's factual, right? So science works in facts and reality.
Well, I mean, just personally,
crazy.
I can be like, I'm telling the truth, but if somebody doesn't want to believe that truth,
it's irrelevant.
They will never look at you like they believe you. And you're like, but I'm telling the truth.
Right. And that's why I think I'm practicing indifference, because that struggle is not worth it to me anymore. Like trying to figure out why people do what they do.
Well, and that's exactly it. That's my art, is like, you can't convince somebody the truth that doesn't want to hear it. Like, you can't. You can pound it into their head and they'll never hear it unless something else comes in to change their opinion.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just sad that what we're seeing now, because I think the news houses always had a slant to them. There's always some kind of philosophical slant, but it was never so caustic as today. It is today. It's just, I don't know what to believe. I go to CNN to read something, an opinion, and I go to Fox to read an opinion, and now I'm left to try to figure out what really happened with a news article, not with any political, with a news article. I can't figure out the truth. And that's not worth it to me anymore now. That's why I guess I get detuned and I don't know all the things I'm not up on things like I should be at times.
Well, I agree. And then the closer you get to any election, the more you know, then you know too much, then everything crisscrosses each other, and then you're like, wait, I don't know. I don't want to vote. Like you're so confused by the end. You're like, I have no idea at this point. I mean, you believe in parties and certain concepts that go along with the parties, but then you come down to the individuals.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
I don't know.
It's frustrating.
I don't think it's. I always believe the following: that politics was never a poor man's sport or woman's sport, meaning that we just don't, as common people, we don't have a place there. It was always, for the most part, when you talk about the bigger seats. The federal seats, and even your high-end state seats, you've got to have an army of money and an army of people to get there, and then to do what you have to do to get to those positions. That element of compromise, I'm not really sure I'm good with that. I don't know,
but you can vote for Mandi Pryor, president.
When you running?
2052.
2052. I'll be dead by then.
I'll be pretty old.
Yeah,
be all right.
At that time, maybe the common person could be able to get this seat.
Yeah, right? You got to kiss a lot of babies.
Before we
shake a lot of
go,
hands.
tell me a little more about this show. Tell our listeners and our viewers more about your show.
My show?
Yeah, your show. This is your show today, It's about you.
Well, this show today or my show outside of the show? Is it the show?
Let's talk,
the other show.
Let's talk on my show today about your show, because today is your show to talk about your show on my show.
All right. So I have a show, if you didn't know. Spotlight on Pittsburgh. It is a concept I came up with, I think, 6 years ago. It was originally, I was going to go from business to business. I work downtown, and I was going to tape with the chefs, and I was going to go in there and have fun and do interviews on the spot. Then I thought of actually doing that. And lugging a video camera, lugging a lighting kit, lugging all of the stuff, which I used to do. Back in the day, I used to pack a car for these shoots, for hours.
Okay.
So then I would also have to go home and edit. I was really not a fan of that. I was doing a lot of videography stuff before I even started my marketing company.
Okay.
So that got knocked out. Then
right.
I had my baby. I was bored at home. Not bored, but like, you know, I move. I like to do stuff. And I came up with my marketing company, and then I also somehow came across Peters Township Community Television Station, and I said, huh. So I was like, called them, and I was like, hi, I want to have a show. They're like, what is it? I'm like, Spotlight on Pittsburgh. I was like, I went to school for broadcasting. I'll be interviewing people. I want a show. They said, okay, fill this out. And then I had a show, and I was like, well, that was easy. And
Wow.
the best part is, they have a studio space. They do
Right.
amazing jobs. They integrate the students in, so the students are learning the video cameras for
Right.
their future. So I feel like I'm like helping out.
Right.
And which has gone by the wayside for, you know, because of COVID, but it'll be back. And you know, they do all the editing too. So it's like a win-win. Like I just bring in the guests, and you know, it's a great fun. And as I said before, I had stage fright. I needed a place that I could grow and practice
to work through
and start
that.
getting people in. And I will say that in person is actually a lot harder because you have to coordinate 2 guests. And that seems to be the hardest thing.
Like, what do you mean?
Like bringing 2 guests in at the same exact time, at the same day, with the studio space open, where there's nobody else, is always the hardest thing.
Okay.
So I love doing the show. I make nothing from it. I'd like to bring on eclectic guests, anybody from small business owners, musicians. I just had Freddie Stover on and John Vento.
Oh, right on.
They're fantastic. I've had on chefs. I've had on big companies, Starkist, Schneider Dairy. You know, I'm all over the place. I just like to find something that's interesting or different to talk on that topic. And it's, you know, 2 interviews separately, and then typically if we're in studio, we'll have them talk with each other. But now that it hasn't been like that, we've just been doing the individuals. But I love doing it, and I've really, you know, it's become a huge thing for me to grow personally at, you know, being able to do this on camera and feel comfortable all the time, which I do. And, you know, really meet a lot of really good people along the way.
Oh, no doubt.
And I'm going to have this guy, Eric McKenna.
You sure you want to do that?
I do. I already found a second guest. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm going to have you on with an interior designer. So you'll talk real estate.
Design,
he doesn't talk about his real estate career quite as much as he should.
Yeah.
Residential all over Pittsburgh. Does a fantastic job at finding places, especially right now that the housing market. He knows a lot of things that other real estate agents might not know. Am I allowed to say that?
I know things.
He knows things. He knows people.
Yeah.
And he'll do you justice.
I appreciate that. That's very kind. Unnecessary, but very kind. Thank you.
We've talked for a while about, you know, other various topics. So I at least wanted to mention that.
She's a hell of a marketing guru over here. And the tough thing about this show is everybody knows this is and anyone that's followed this show is it's non-commercial. We don't have sponsors, but I'm
not sponsoring the show. I would not.
No.
I would not.
But I'm a realtor. That's what I do here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And this show has been a blessing indirectly because I've met fabulous people. And some of those people have been clients. It's worked out well, but overtly, I love the organic nature and talk on this show with no agenda. You know, no one's got their claws in us. And but I love marketing. I'm a capitalist, pure and through. I love marketing. I love commerce. That's no secret. And what we do here is, I don't know, giving. We love talking to entrepreneurs. That's kind of how Rocco and I initially connected was. His overall philosophy, but the fact that he was like an entrepreneur on steroids, and that just kind of like that's just, you know, I get it. So, but the show's grown from that point to do a lot of different things. We do a UFO series on here, which is just amazing.
What is a UFO series?
I have James Krug, who is a director of MUFON and also a science professor down in Altoona. He comes on, and I have 2 good friends of mine, Julia Mulligan and Fred Koalo, and we sit in every 6 weeks, and James brings it, visuals and the whole bit, and we flesh out interesting UFO and paranormal stories on here for a good 3 hours.
Do you believe in aliens?
I do believe that there's things out there. I'm not much on the paranormal stuff. Like I'm really indecisive on that. But in terms of us being alone in the universe, there's just no way we are. You know, there's got to be.
Even if it's a bacteria or something, right? There has to be
I think we've been. See, the problem with that is now
some kind of microbe.
Well, yeah. If an alien was coming here,
tiny.
if aliens have been coming here for so long, they might be only this big. We might not even know.
They could be here right now.
They could be here now.
Wait.
Maybe James knows something we don't.
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's little green men out there. But
I think something's been flying in from other places. The government, I think, has been covering stuff up. I'm there.
Yeah.
I believe that. I don't have any conspiracy theories. Although that kind of conspiracy is fun to pander about. It's not. It doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't harm
and I'm
anybody.
sure you've talked about Orson Welles.
Oh yeah.
And that Pittsburgh was like the foundation of the was that War of the Worlds, or what was it called?
War of the Worlds was a big, that was the parody he did, I guess, on the radio, and
that
people
they
thought it
didn't
was
know.
real.
Oh.
That would have been Pittsburgh. You pull
Yeah.
that shit in Pittsburgh, people start
Gins,
going
guys.
outside with their trash cans and
Gins guys hear
and
about
their
them
guns.
aliens. Oh my god!
That's pretty good.
I put out a parking chair down the street. Sorry,
That's
I have to.
good.
Yeah.
You got the ins are down pat.
Yeah. So you have to bring your, the alien paranormal. Yeah, I don't believe in ghosts though.
Yeah, I'm not much on that either.
No.
People lose me with that, but you said you had some comedians on your show. Who did you have?
I had Terry Jones and
I've had
Mike
Terry on here
Sass.
twice.
Oh, I love Terry Jones. I've known him. I used to work at the Toonsium back in the day, and he did Comics for Comics with, it was a fundraiser with Mike Bizzelli, if you know him.
Yep.
And I love Terry Jones. And they were on the couch in my program, and Mike fell in he's like a linebacker, and he fell into the couch. And I was like, only when comedians are on the show would we have one of you fall in a couch.
That's funny.
Yeah, he was just like stuck in there.
Terry and I went
we have our
4.5, 5 hours his first visit. We cracked it wide open. We were going deep. Had some good stuff.
Well, and he has the most adorable little girls, and
he's a good egg.
yeah, I agree.
He's a good
I
egg.
agree.
Shout out to Terry Jones.
Terry Jones.
Terry Jones.
Great job. Yeah, I've known him for a while. We had Scott Blasey from the Clarks. I was telling you, we were flipping a penny, and
Scott's great.
It didn't flip. It just kind of sat there.
It was cool to have him just to hear the history of the Clarks, because he really went.
Yeah.
He said, Eric, I probably only got 40 minutes of material for you. I'm like, my friend, if you give me 15 minutes, I'd be happy to have you. He was there almost 2 hours, and at the end, he was like, I really had a great time. That made me feel really good, like I was on to something, like that, because it was discussion based. It wasn't really like, I know you don't do hard driving interviews. I'm not a journalist. I barely got through high school.
Wow.
So, I mean.
Part of that was, and I think I was never supposed to be in the news industry, just because of the fact that it's sad. I mean, there's just
Like, what do you mean?
it brings up. I mean, now they do a lot more positive stories and stuff, but a lot of it can be
Downers.
Yeah. I had to write about this poor little girl day after day after day after day after day. I was like writing for the 11 o'clock news.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got kicked in the face with like boots and was like in intensive care. And I mean, I just had to keep talking about it every day. And I'm like, I'm so upset for this poor girl.
Absolutely.
And they do feel good. And that is life. But for me, it's like, do I want to work within that scope every day? I mean, it's not saying I'm trying to look past the bad, but at the same time, do I want to be integrated into it?
Because you get sucked in.
Yeah.
How can you not? That's just part of the gig.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you listen to podcasts on your spare time? What spare time you do have? Do you subscribe to any?
I do not.
You don't, huh?
I, for some reason, don't. I will listen to comedians. I love listening to comedians in my car. I don't know what it is about, and there's nothing about podcasts. I don't know what it is.
Comedians have podcasts now.
That's true. I don't know what it is. I just don't. I just not gotten into any podcasts. Video podcasts, yes.
So
yeah.
I don't even know what this
visual.
is. Is this am I doing Miss Marketing Expert? Am I doing a talk show? Am I doing a video podcast? Am I doing a web show? Am I doing a podcast?
I think
what is this?
I think you have a podcast set up. So generally speaking, I think this is a podcast. I think you're where podcasts are going, which are video, you can call it a webcast because it has both. It's just fully integrated. So you're doing the video, you're doing
Not
the
live,
radio,
though.
but not live. No.
Yeah, I'd like to do that someday, but that requires a bigger operation where I would need to have, like Rogan has Jamie. He's got that system to do, and then there's switching for back and forth, and what if I did that? I couldn't have.
It'd be easier in certain ways because then you don't edit.
Yeah, I would leave and just render it and then release it. Because it's already. Well, I guess it'd be already out there in the ether. It would already be there because it was broadcast and recorded live. I don't know how that works, but it wouldn't look as good because I think the back and forth on the camera stuff is choppy. At least I'm not polished. Like if you notice about this show, another unique thing about what we're doing is that I've heard all kinds of editing advice. Eric, you leave your transitions on too long, and when you shoot to this camera angle, only let it go 4 to 5 seconds and then revert back. I do this real stodgy kind of transition that goes to one angle and it goes there 15, 20 seconds, slow pan. Then it goes back to the main. I have a certain way of doing it. It creates a certain look and feel that's uniquely
I think you should do it for
mine.
you.
Exactly. And so that look and feel is consistent, and it's part of what our presentation is. So it doesn't fit Hollywood rules in terms of, you know what I mean? But I don't care.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
When somebody,
I just don't care.
Comes along and does it for you for free, or that'd be great. Then,
yeah.
But if you like it the way it looks, then keep it the way it looks.
Yeah, and just a part of the editing process I love because I get to revisit the conversations again, and it's time consuming. And I do have the kids are grown now, so they have their own lives, and I have the time. If I didn't have the time, it'd be different.
Sure.
But I get to revisit the shows through the editing, which is fantastic because that's the. And there isn't really any heavy-handed editing here, but it's putting the show together. You have to relive it again.
Well, you're doing a lot more editing for your show than I have for mine.
Well, yeah, I have to put it together.
I do like editing, and that's one of the nice things I do at Koza Law Group is I do some little video projects, little editing, commercials, which I haven't done in a while.
Right.
And I really enjoy it because I'm kind of free to be creative with it.
Right.
But when I'm like forced to do it, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like on a timeline, I have to get this project to them for this, and I'm like, oh, I don't do it.
Yeah.
And once I get started, I love it. It can be really fun and interesting to edit stuff and like add elements and sound effects and stuff into it.
You think terrestrial radio is going to be around much longer?
It's still a booming industry.
Terrestrial radio.
Yeah.
Why? So it's still surviving.
Definitely.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I mean, I listen to it sometimes when I'm too lazy to connect my stuff to Bluetooth. It's fine. You're going to hear the same songs,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's advertising. And then, I've talked with some of the people I know. I'm not going to think of it. It's a Christian radio station. They're doing the same thing kind of as, the newspapers are, which is integrating email, and
it's all getting blurry.
It's just going to end up like collapsing into one big,
multimedia like
oligopoly, right?
Right. Yeah, good word.
Thank you.
We don't
it's
use
the only
big
thing
words
I learned.
on this show.
It's the only thing I learned from my economics class in senior year.
Yeah, the podcasting
that
thing.
one was for you, Mr. Bangle. Thank you for that.
Shout out to Mr. Bengal.
That's pretty funny.
I know that the podcasting thing is now a part of talk radio shows and the sports talk and the fan. There's little podcasts sprouting out everywhere. It's just really interesting to see. I've listened to podcasts for so long now, and I enjoy them that it's hard to listen to terrestrial radio because even if it's sports content that I want, there's a commercial like every couple minutes. It drives me insane.
I just love Delilah, though. Still, I love Delilah.
She's still doing her thing.
Her little romance music at night. Oh,
that's nationally broadcast.
I think so.
Is that still a thing? She was doing that stuff like 35 years ago.
She really gives some good relationship advice.
Is she like 85 years old?
I don't think she's that old. I think I looked her up and I was
Started when she was
surprised at how young she was.
Really?
Wow. She must have started in her 20s.
That's like Ann Landers, right? I mean, how old was she still around?
I don't know. I mean, it's changed a little bit.
Was it Ask Abby or Ask
Abby?
Ask Abby was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And that competed with Ann Landers, right? There was two nationally syndicated advice columnist.
Well, Natalie Balenciaga, she does
you
it.
just read my mind.
Yeah, she does it
I
in
know
Pittsburgh.
she does. We're still waiting for you, Natalie.
Natalie,
Still waiting for you. I'm just putting it
I'll
out there.
talk to her.
Okay.
We'll make it a thing.
I'm really anxious to talk with her. I think she'd be a great conversation.
Yeah.
I do. Hint.
He doesn't mean it. He totally does. Well, once I tell her how fun this is.
Good.
It is a good time.
Did you have fun?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Come back and see me.
I
for
will.
Sure.
Well,
this
you
is
know
like
I
a really
will.
good time. And I am fascinated by this show. Did you know a guy named, is that where Al Levine does his show? You know Al Levine? He does a
I've heard of
sports
him.
show on, maybe it is in Peters. It's one of the other South Hills municipalities.
Bethel Park?
Could be Bethel.
They do
Could
a lot.
It be? Maybe
Yeah,
it's Bethel.
Upper St. Clair has one, but I haven't heard much about it. I know Bethel Park does a lot of shows.
Okay, it's Al Levine's Sports Machine, I think it's called.
Oh, I have heard of that.
And Al does it's pretty popular. It does a show on community access. I think it might be Bethel Park. It might be.
Probably Bethel.
All you South Hills people, you're all
I
just...
wasn't a South. I've only been in the South Hills for 5 years.
I love the South Hills. I used to live in Mount Lebanon.
I'm an Aspinwaller.
Right on.
And then I lived in Natrona Heights, actually in Fawn Township in the middle of the woods for like 5 years.
Is it Natrona or Natrona?
Natrona. Now you're making me rethink it.
Well, I was schooled because I was told I was always calling Latrobe, and I was told it's called it's pronounced Latrobe. And I didn't.
I always called it Natrona Heights.
I didn't know. I'm sorry. You live and
That's
learn.
okay.
You live and learn.
You do.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Come
I
back
had
and
so
do
much
this
fun.
again?
I will.
I'll put
definitely.
you on one of these panel shows.
I want to.
I get insane.
Put me up against other people.
It's not like it's not.
I'm
like
just
that.
kidding.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Although we could make it
What's
that. We
the
could
challenge?
We could make it that way. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Eric.
All right, friends. We're out.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.